Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the North American LCS. My name is David Freak Turley, and I'm joined here for a bot lane focus stream with Mark Z. Zimmerman, and Alish Freeze Kanishinek. I was close. It wasn't great.
I mean, you could do a lot worse.
I could do worse.
Yeah.
Anyway, some amazing people here to break this down. And tonight, our focus is going to be on the bot lane match, specifically the bot lane carry. So it's P1 Arrow and CLG Stixxay. We are on 7.4 now. We've only seen one match in the NALCS and a Challenger and EU LCS run 7.4, but we're pretty much up at the forefront here. And we can look at how these players have done so far in the LCS, and pretty much they're number 1 and 2 players statistically in this role.
Right, and I think that's a big reason why we are going to talk about them today. DPM is like the big part that stands out for me. They are number 1 and number 2, and Arrow in particular is significantly ahead. Just in terms of damage per minute, he is almost 100. I think it's like 80 over Stixxay, who's second place.
Yeah, he played a few more Varus games, which would, given that he played Varus poke, he would get a bit more damage per minute, but still not as huge difference as you see now on the screen. It just that showcases how good he is on these champions, on Varus and Jhin, these poke-heavy champions, and how well he performs on those.
Absolutely agree. Arrow making a case for himself being the best bot laner right now in North America. And to add some extra insight into how the stream is going, we'll be playing with Fog of War on. So we're basically focusing on one player per game. We're going to be doing blue side Fog of War. So we're going to be basically focusing on Arrow for game 1. And the three of us going to kind of break down his decision making, what he's trying to do, the goal being to hopefully teach you how to play as well as Arrow. I know I could use some tips to get up there, and it's going to be fun one to watch for. And of course, the second game, we'll start focusing on what Stixxay's doing, and game 3, we'll figure it out who it's going to be.
Yeah, and I think it's very interesting when you talk about these two players, because obviously they're two huge focal points for their teams, but they're also different in how they're expected to be used. Stixxay is a lot more aggressive in lane. We saw his CS per minute, or CS differential at 10 was much higher than what Arrow's was. So Arrow is much more get into late game, and he'll hard carry you in team fights with that crazy damage, and Stixxay is a little bit more about winning lane.
Yeah, that can be given the fact that they, like CLG have the bot lane, they're pretty strong. They believe in themselves, each other. They're all bot lane. They have a good synergy together, and they play aggressively together. They're very confident with each other, right? And for Stixxay, we see it every game. They either they just play super aggressively. Sometimes they die. They don't really care if they die. They just really want to get ahead. And then you look at P1. That's a new bot lane. They don't have much synergy. There's a language barrier, and it just feels like they just want to get over with the laning phase and then let Arrow just go everywhere and poke everyone and carry the game.
Yeah, and I mean, those styles have clearly worked for both these teams. They're winning a lot of the matches. P1 tied for 3rd, and CLG right now, I believe, is alone in 5th in their current standing with the Immortals lost earlier today. So both in playoff positions right now, and they seem to be, again, bot lane being a very important point for these teams. So I want to kind of ask you in a very direct way, Freeze, which player do you think is just better? If you're building a team and you got to choose between these two, who would you put on your squad?
Arrow.
Yeah.
I would go for Arrow because he has more experience with the different playstyles throughout his career, and he obviously played on LCK, and he was playing versus the best AD carries. And just given the fact that he plays with Adrian, that they didn't need to necessarily click, but then he still looks like the best ADC in North America right now. That's just, for me, that's a really good aspect, right? He gets a new support. He really looks well on the team, and he is the main carry of their team.
And just to play devil's advocate a little bit, obviously I agree with Arrow, but on the side of CLG, I think Stixxay does have to do a little bit more for his team in the early game. It's very nice that Arrow does have Ryu and Zig and Anori or Meteos, depending on who's playing the jungle. The team overall feels like it's a little bit more cohesive than what CLG is working with. We've seen Darshan be very up or down. Smithy's been struggling a little bit. Even Afro.
Right, we're all on board that P1 feels like a better team overall than CLG.
Yeah.
Right, which I think, like I said, I think Arrow's the better player, but it does give him a little bit of breathing room in the early game where he doesn't need to be generating his own leads, where it feels like Stixxay might have to do that.
Right, you don't have to take risks if you're Arrow because Ryu is going to be ahead, and you've got Inori who's been smashing the jungle most of the time, and generally speaking. And you're right, so Stixxay's like, well, if he's going to randomly dive in 1v5 as Katarina, I need to make sure I can keep up with this. And, and you're right, it makes it harder to be Stixxay, and it makes it harder to do his job. So Champ's now beginning in here, and of course, again, 7.4, sometimes going to change what's going on in Champ Select. Varus and Jhin still seem to be top 2. But I guess, Freeze, I'll jump to you. Talking about sort of what you feel like the AD carry tier list is, where you can pick the various champions, what's going to get banned away.
So we already see the Varus ban, which was one of the most played AD carries for both of them. But for example, for Stixxay, he won only 1 game and lost 8 games on Varus. So that really doesn't, CLG doesn't feel like putting him on Varus anymore because they just didn't win on it. On the other hand, Arrow, he won 6 games, 5 games lost. That's much better win rate. Still not as good as Jhin. So I think Jhin is going to be very contested. Last time they played each other, the Jhin was picked 3 times in 3 games, and Jin was 3-0. So that just speaks for itself. Arrow is 8-1, I think, Stixxay is 6-1 on Jin, and Arrow is something ridiculous like 5-1, 4-1 as well. So it's high win rate.
I think the interesting thing, of course, is going to be what's going to kind of take in that B tier, because we saw in LCK, for example, Ezreal starting to be prioritized a little bit higher. Bang was picking that with things like Jin and Ashe available. So some teams are changing their priority on that. You see the Caitlyn hover there for a second.
Yeah.
That's one of Stixxay's favorite champions to take once the initial top tier ones are gone. So
yeah, he made it his name for himself.
Wow. The first pick's actually Ashe.
I actually really love this because Ashe is really strong champion for a laning phase, and you basically cannot lose after you ban Varus. You cannot really lose laning phase with Ashe, no matter what support you pick. So even if you pick melee support and they will have range support, you should still go even with Ashe if they play versus Jin. So I really like it for the first pick Ashe.
Is it harder when you're against like Rengar Shen? Are you suddenly really afraid of it? You're like, I regret my decision.
Maybe I should have picked it,
No, that's when you pick Ezreal. You want that arcade shift. You want to get away from that Rengar.
I wouldn't expect Ezreal in NA for sure, but Korea loves it. See Bang speaking highly of it, just picking it every time. It's really a good champion if you know how to play it, but it's very hard to play.
Is that why you think it's not as prioritized in North America? It is a little bit less of a power pick on its own?
Yeah, for sure. Since most of the pros they have started picking on NA solo queues, so they don't play champions like Ezreal that need very high mechanics, very low ping. It's very different to play it, so they don't get the practice they need, and then they just don't feel like the champion is that good. But if you play it and you just know how to play it on low ping, it's really strong.
Okay, so the champ six running out, and I mean, it's bot lane focus. We can talk about the teams overall, though. Of course, Maokai very far down the tier list with the nerfs. Of course, Shen, Nautilus, these teams still wanted to play tank tops, and I guess Poppy, the only one to be left up, but it looks like Nautilus and Shen were more valuable here. I am still just kind of surprised to see that Ashe was so highly prized, Jin's being almost ignored. Like, they give the Rango over. Again, that just is still surprising to me, but that was just how the champ select plays out. Camille still not grabbed either. Both top laners grabbed, and Camille's is probably going to go unpicked this game unless Adrian plays a support or something.
Right, I don't think you look at Zig as a big Camille player necessarily. Yeah. And just looking at the last pick, Jin there, Freeze, what is it like when you see your AD carry pool getting pinched? I know it's something that, in AD carries in particular, there's basically 3 champions that are considered S tier, and that's it, and then there's a pretty heavy drop-off to the next tier. So you sometimes see that pinch where, you take the Varus or Ashe right away, the other team doesn't take something, and then you see 2 bans thrown at it. Is that something that's a big concern when you're picking later in the draft?
As you say, Ashe, Varus, and Jin, those are the S tier picks, and then it's definitely a big step down towards the second tier picks, which is Ezreal, Sivir, Caitlyn. Those are way weaker, so obviously you want to get your ADC as fast as possible if you can, because then they will just pinch it and it's very hard for you to do something. But then if you're still good, let's say if you on purpose let them pick Jin or Varus, you're fine with picking a second tier pick like Sivir, because Sivir in mid game outpushes those 2 very fast, and then you can move around the map with the mobility Sivir provides.
Yeah,
that can be a plan, but usually if you don't plan specific comps and specific picks with these champions like Sivir, then you just want to pick your S tier ADC.
Yeah, just pick the tried and true ones and figure out your champs like a bit later on. So several mid lane bans coming through, Ahri and Echo off the table, and do you pretty much care much what the rest of the team is? Like if you're playing this game, if you're in champ select, you're just like the Ashe or the Jin. Like, so what do you?
I mean, I look at this CLG team and it's just I don't want to play it. I don't want to play.
You don't want to play against
who he's gonna take some assassin mid laner. He's gonna pick a Katarina or something. That's when you really hate your life.
That'd be hard, because then they have Olaf, Nautilus. If they pick another AD heavy mid laner, then I would be fine with just buying Ninja Tabis on ADC, buying Randons, GAs. At that point, I don't care if I have damage. I have arrow to stun people, and then all I need to do is just survive, and Nautilus Olaf will survive.
Well, more physical damage. CLG running with Jace in the mid lane, so Ninja Tabby, you think, coming in for arrow this game?
Yeah, I would do Ninja Tabby, honestly. Yeah. And I don't really like this comp. Like, I loved it from the beginning, from when they had the Jin, Rengar, Shen, and if they would pair it with Syndra, for example, that would be very strong as well. But then they pick Jace, and that means for me that they're limiting themselves. They're shooting themselves in the foot. They need to win early mid game in order to win the game. If they don't get ahead significantly, then it's going to be much harder for them to close out the game and win the game.
Right. I think on this patch, you hear people talking sometimes about how all AD comps aren't that bad depending on what you're playing against, if they can actually stack armor easily.
You're against 2 tanks.
But you're against 2 tanks, so I mean, obviously Olaf and Nautilus are going to be totally happy buying 3 or 4 armor items, and then that front line by itself is actually kind of threatening for a Jhin if you know, Nautilus gets a TP flank or Olaf just runs at your face.
And it doesn't matter that Jace is gonna buy an eventual Black Cleaver and that Last Whisper shreds or pens more armor than it used to. It's still just, it's not a situation you want to be in, and it does make life harder. Okay, so the comp's rounded out for Phoenix 1, and the question I basically have, again, it's Arrow focused. What is Arrow trying to do this game? He knows he's got a Nami teammate, right? So you're playing Ashe Nami into Jhin Soraka. What do you want to do in this lane?
Well, right now, I would like to just farm because I'm scared of getting ganked by Rengar. It's not that hard to die. Like, it's very easy to avoid the Rengar gank, but if the Rengar ganks you and forces your summoners, that instantly signifies danger level 6 that you will get Doven. And when I look at the team comp from CLG, I just feel like if I don't die bot lane, it's gonna be fine. If I don't die level 6, it's gonna be fine and we will win the game. So I would just play safe, farm. Again, Adrian and Aaron, they're not aggressive bot lane, they just want to farm, get over with the laning phase. So that's what I would be focusing on, just trying to survive, farm, use the hog shots. You're very, very safe with Ashe if you use the hog shots properly. There are spots on the map where you can eat the entire jungle, and you see the jungler always.
Yeah, absolutely. Ashe, I mean, super good and competitive. Would that change? Because in this game, we're like, okay, if P1's going to outscale, CLG's all AD, the double tank's going to be invincible. If we don't lose the game by 20 minutes, we just win automatically. Would that change if like CLG had outcomped them? Would it be like, actually, we've got to snowball this lane because we need to get ahead, or are you still you just have to hide from Rengar?
Well, right now it's just if they had something in different mid lane, then it would be different because they could just outcome them, CLG specifically. But right now it really feels like they need to get ahead. And then when you look at the map, they will not get ahead top lane, right? Nautilus pushes out Shen. Shen wins later, obviously versus tanks. But then early game, Nautilus, that's his strong part. Rengar will not kill Olaf in the jungle unless he would really like get caught and out of position Medias. And then you look at mid lane. Mid lane is volatile if you gank mid lane properly, but then again you have Rengar who doesn't really gank well pre-6, and then if you gank mid lane, get a kill, that's very snowbally, and then you can transfer that lead into bottom side. So I feel like it's gonna be for CLG heavily focused on snowballing bot lane.
So you're saying you know, you feel like it's much more on CLG to be the aggressor in this matchup, just not in terms of team comp, how it actually plays, as well as the fact that they're likely to get outscaled. Do you feel at all like, how do you think the matchup between Ashe and Jhin goes, specifically with the supports? Because I know a lot of people think bot lanes are not super AD carry counter pick dependent. It's a lot more about how the supports match up.
I would be very confident playing Ashe Nami in this game, because that lane is very strong. It has a very high sustain. With Warlords, you have to remember, you play with Warlords versus Deathfire Touch on Jhin. He has 3 potions, you have 3 potions, but then you have heals from Nami and heals from the Warlord, so you should always win the lane.
And hey, Arrow's got 4 potions. He went boots for the opening,
yeah,
so he's like super sustain heavy, right? Gonna dodge ganks, gonna be able to dodge skill
like
shots.
This one. I very like this one because I'm not a big fan of boot star on ADC, but versus Soraka it's really good because you need to avoid getting hit by the Qs.
Yeah, dodge Qs and the Jhin Ws.
Yeah.
So we were talking a little bit before the stream started about how you like boots of swiftness sometimes into Jhin, but you also said this game you like Ninja Tabby into the team comp of CLG. So which one here would you go as we, you know, obviously get a little later into the game?
Ninja Tabby. I would just straight up go Ninja Tabby.
Just negate all that auto attacking coming in from CLG's side.
Okay, talk about how they're running the lane right here, because in solo queue they're not leashing, so how do you get level 2 first without like losing control and shoving under the turret, basically?
Well, it's very hard for Jhin to push out Ashe Nami because Ashe has the volley level 1, which just basically gives the priority on lane, and you have to go as Jhin with lane, because if you try to contest level 1, you will lose, and that's what's happening right now. Stixxay should have not tried to push the level 1 the creeps, because if you do, they have more sustains, they have more range, and they will just outpush you and outpoke you.
You don't mind being close to the turret right now? You're not afraid of getting ganked? It's okay just to get level 2?
And you have double range, you have AD carry and support, so last thing on the tower should be fairly easily for you, because you have both of you can hit the minion and last hit together. So like getting pushed in this lane is actually not that bad, because if you gank Ashe Nami, they have no way of running away from the gank.
We also see that Olaf had invaded and stolen away the blue buff, I think, so they feel pretty confident probably to play this aggressive push up on the turret. If your jungler was doing a more normal clear, would you start thinking about having to play a little safer at this point, or do you continue to play this aggressive?
You usually play aggressive till level 3, till like once you get level 3, that's the area where you should start thinking about what is better for you if you want to let them push, or let them like slow push the wave towards you and still control the wave. Because if you're Ashe Nami, you have so much power that you can let enemy Jhin Soraka push to you, and basically bait them to push, and when they push, you freeze the lane, sort of. And if they contest every CS, you just both hit them, and you have more sustain, as I mentioned before, so you should always win that. So what P1 should do, they should just hard push this wave, make it bounce from the tower, and then make it push to them, and then that way Stixxay, he wouldn't lose the lane, but he would start getting denied CS a bit.
And we got a gank forth on top side. Nothing to do with Arrow, but it is going to be important if Zig's getting behind and Smithy starts getting kills. Makes it worse for Arrow. Yeah, but hey, they burned his flash. They got some damage onto him. And at this point, does it mean that you're safe for bot lane because he's probably going to repeat gank top in the next 4 minutes?
Yeah, every time you see jungler as a bot lane, you should go ham. At that point, if he's on the other side, obviously. If he's bottom side, then you have to run away. But if you see jungler top side, you will not look for trades. Because if you react faster and you trade, basically who hits the first starts winning the trades. And if you react fast, you start trading a lot when you see the jungler, then, and let's say enemy bot lane doesn't see the jungle, then you're winning the lane, just given the fact that the enemy jungler showed on the map.
Yeah, and so right now, the lane goes back to equal, and Arrow's up 2 CS, right? He's hard pushed 6 in the turret. I mean, props to CLG, they last hit under turret pretty well. You know, 24 is still not not too bad of a clip, but plus 2 CS so far from how they played the lane. I do want to point out, Arrow has gone Fervor of Battle. Fervor was buffed in 7.4, Warlords was nerfed, and
that's interesting.
Some of it, he has a Nami, so like he has healing already, but I've seen Fervor just be more effective in general right now.
Yeah, that's very interesting. Fervor with Nami is actually a very good choice, because you, or as I mentioned, you have so much sustain, and if you're looking at, like, P1 bot lane isn't that aggressive to be using the most out of Warlords, so they just Arrow just opted to Fervor of Battle and more scaling, better late game, mid game, which I like from this adaptation from Arrow. Because as you say, he has 4 potions, boots, Nami heals. There's no way he can lose the lane.
He'll outrun anyone. Of course, he even slows him when he attacks him. So Arrow's just perma pushing. At this point, they don't have a lot of control over where Smithy is anymore, right? They haven't tracked him other than hoping they know which jungle camp's being taken. There's a ward on Gromp, and they've been using Hawkshot.
This is very good what Adrian did. Usually, the way it's very hard to win bot lanes now unless you have very good counter pick. The way you win bot lanes is that you let your support recall first. If your support recalls first and then just runs mid lane, there's this issue. He should be running mid lane right now, Adrian, and just warding the mid for his mid laner. And that way you transfer the winning bot lane matchup. Like, you're not winning, right? You're 41 to 40, but you're still winning in pressure because you're pushing, and that way Adrian can roam mid lane, ward up, and gank mid laner, which he's doing right now.
Right, so we're going to see a fight break out in the mid lane, and Meteo's going pretty hard into Smithy.
Got him.
Gets the first blood, and here you get to see the extra benefit of having your support there as well. They can basically get a 4v3 here.
Yeah, he would never go this deep if he didn't know that Adrian's coming, and they have bot lane priority.
Suddenly 4 people down there, double kill from Meteos.
And that's just like this little thing from bot lane, when your bot lane is able to push and your support is able to recall first and just do this, that helps your team so much, and you don't usually see that, you know, it's just a mind game for the LCS.
Right, I mean, that was an example where Adrian was mostly coming in there for a little bit of backup at the very end. P1 was probably going to win that situation anyways, but there are a lot of other situations that come up where it's not that close, and having the extra member there early, and the summoner spells you can bring with exhaust and things like that coming in as the support can be really huge in those kind of early game skirmishes.
Sure, a flash exhaust to slow someone down, like guarantee the fact that Jace can't get away. And I gotta, I guess, essentially ask / say, you know, Arrow is in a 1v2. Like, Adrian recalls back. Adrian's in a, like, this guy's in a 1v2. Now, thankfully for him, there's a Soraka who's not exactly a lane bully, so he lets the lane get pushed, right?
Yeah, the lane was pushing towards him, so he basically will max lose 1 or 2 melees. He doesn't really lose anything from it. And when now it's a problem, they can freeze with the jungler pressure because they haven't seen the jungle for a while, but they should still be able to push the wave with this big wave, right? That's why I think they should have made the lane reset, because they can freeze. CLG bot lane can freeze if they're smart, and they're doing it,
So this means he's going to lose a full wave. He's going to lose the full cannon wave right now to get this recall off. Zerker Greaves, so no Ninja Tabby. Zerker Greaves double longsword.
No
very
Ninja
early
Tabby.
movement speed for Arrow.
No boots of swiftness.
No boots
Freeze
of
isn't happy.
I'm not happy.
So I've seen this a lot from pro, especially Korean players. They rush boots to like all the time from bot lane. I don't like it, but I want to know like your thoughts on it.
So what Koreans think about bot lane is that with the champions you play right now, it's almost ungankable. Olaf, this is what happens when you feed Olaf. You just He runs
anything.
Olaf, probably one of the most binary champions in the game. If he gets ahead, he runs at you and kills you. If he gets behind, he runs at you and kills himself.
Yep. I, for example, think that Olaf is a bad champion, but it's just every time he gets ahead, he shouldn't get ahead, okay? Let's leave it at that.
Sure. Okay, so let's talk about the Boots choice then.
Yeah.
So you're saying the way they feel about bot laners is...
Yeah, the bot lanes in LCK, they feel like the way you play and the champions you play, you should be nearly ungankable. So if they gank you, you should be able to basically just survive. Olaf.
Well, right.
Yeah.
He gets away.
Let's get back to it. So when you are very ungankable and you get, because they get this build with tier 2 boots, it's so hard for the enemy jungler to gank you and actually do something from you. Imagine if you have no boots compared to 2 boots. You still, this lane is, as I said, it's very hard to get ahead in this lane, so it doesn't matter if you get combat stats or if you get more like a survivability stats, which in that case, it's better to get survivability stats, and if they gank you, you just run away.
I think a lot of people in this meta would describe bot lane's role as more about generating pressure and getting push advantages than out-trading and trying to actually all-in, though we do see one
really good arrow.
Yeah, super perfect. He's done, right? Oh, actually, good flash. Gets the hot.
And
nice.
Love's coming out.
All right, 2-0.
Oh, there's no...
Nope, Shen not nearly enough. And that feels awful on the side of CLG. A lot of people talk about how important it is to use Shen ultimates reactively here, and you want to combo that with a Rengar ultimate or something, but Rengar's been heavily controlled by Meteos, and then the first ultimate is used to try and pick somebody up who's going to die anyways.
Yeah, so quick gut check. Obviously going for turret's the right call. When do you realize, like, we can go for first turret gold? Like, what does it take for you to say, stay here, kill the turret with me?
If you see the enemy jungle top side, then you can, and your jungler is bot side, you just say, come bot lane, pressure them off the turret. They can last with those minions that will be on the turret. And if the turret has been low recently, then you can take it. So let's say if it's 50–60%, then you can take it in one go. But if it's full HP, then you know you can't take it and you can't really go for it. So it's given, if you have a pushing matchup like they do, and they're 2 range, they can both hit the turret. That's how you get ahead, you know, like you don't get ahead by denying CS under the tower, you get ahead by getting the tower damage. Because the first break gives you 650 gold. If you leave it to ADC, that snowballs you heavily.
Do you think there's ever a time to potentially leave the turret up to extend laning phase? I know there's something people used to do more in the past, but with the addition of that first circle like you're talking about, do you ever think it's the right call to potentially leave the turret up?
Not in this meta. Yeah. It's if you remember the meta where people
this is the Meteos show. We're talking about bot lane, but it's kind of hard to do that when you got a 4-0.
Yeah, so it's again that Meteos is carrying, but I mean, and you were saying before, right? Like Arrow's job is to not die, it's to be utility for the team. So like
if you play like champions like Blitzcrank, Kalista, Thresh, you know, like Leona, those champions are, you can leave the laning phase or the turret up, and you can just make it push towards you and then all in them, push for kills. But as I mentioned, nowadays it's so hard to get 2v2 kills in bottom lane that you play the pressure game basically.
Yeah, and they've got that. So then the question is as well, I've seen so many teams, they will swap out of the bot lane and go top and try to get more turret kills. And in this case, P1's not doing it. Is there a reason for it? Is that a flaw?
I like this one because they have TP advantage on top lane, and they know that if they TP, the Shen can't follow because he has no ult and he has no TP. So if they do, both of them, they're dead.
He's dead. He's exhausted. Snub's not going to matter.
Yeah. They chose the very greedy path, and they didn't unite with jungler, which was very bad from them, and this is a big throw from them. But they're still in sort of.
Yeah, I mean, Meteos probably not going to be able to get out here. Going to be a 3-for-0 most likely, unless
Adrian died for free.
Oh. Comes a TP, and it's a little aggressive by CLG, but I think they want more
them,
because
they're running away.
Oh.
Yep.
Wow, that's so many bad plays by P1 right here. They could have left so much sooner. None of this is Arrow's fault, by the way. At this point, that's the rest of P1 inting.
Oh boy, that's a huge throw. I mean, they're still up 2k gold, but Zig getting a lot of cleanup.
Okay, Assassin Nautilus actually.
Oh, he will kill him all.
This is hilarious.
Okay.
Why does Smithy jump in, by the way? Isn't he just safe? Can't Smithy just run away? He just jumps on a Zig and gives a free kill. That's terrible.
That was definitely a big mistake by CLG. I mean, you couldn't get away from the Nautilus because he came in TP from
And then
behind.
again, if you look at the scoreboard, you see 480 carry champs, and there you see a replay where they just didn't group with the Arrow, and Adrian didn't went with Olaf. Olaf was farming golems. This is a major mistake by them. They should always wait for each other. It's very important to go together with support AD or jungler.
Yeah, so Freak, you had asked about when's the right time to actually start rotating around the map.
Yeah.
A lot of people sometimes make a mistake of, okay, we took bot turret, let's head top right away.
Yeah.
But depending on on how the minion wave, you kind of settled it when you finish pushing the turret. A lot of the times, if you bounce it back, it's not best to go top right away because you're basically giving the enemy team a minion wave to trade your bot turret with. So going bottom once again, pushing the wave out one more time before rotating mid is actually right in a lot of situations. And I think P1 was right to do that there. But like Freeze was saying, the problem was the path.
There's a lot of factors. There's dragon factor, depending on what dragon is up, or if the dragon is up. If there's Earth Drake, sometimes Ocean Drake for the comp, if you're playing versus comp, obviously Fire Drake, then you will always go bot lane again and push the wave all the way to the second tier to get vision in the blue side area and do the Drake play. If there's no Drake, then you look for top laner, right? If you have a carry top laner and they have a tank top laner, you never want to swap AD carry support versus a tank top laner when you have carry top laner. You want to keep the extended laning phase for your carry top laner so he farms.
Yeah. You don't want a FUR 1v2.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so you got to see here basically they roamed up for the mid lane. You talked about bot lane pressure. They pushed the wave in, then they ran together up the river. They ran together, 4-man stack into the mid lane. It's like, great, we can push the turret down. And I think at this point, you just kind of keep watching the minimap to figure out where the bot lane wave is going and make sure you don't lose it to the turret when it does push.
Right, and I think we're talking about, hard to do it versus tank versus carry depending on the matchup. I think another one is mid matchup matters a lot. Like Syndra has a lot of burst potential, so if you can get a good roam off mid and kind of surprise them, Nami's a great champion for this. Just kind of shoot your ultimate from the Fog of War. If it lands, you have great follow-up with the Syndra. There's a lot of different things to consider about which lane you should send your bot lane later. And looks like sending it mid's working out pretty well for P1 right now.
And this is not even the best play, right, from P1. It's really good play, close to the perfect play, but it doesn't matter. Even if they would be playing right now badly, look at the bot lane. Bot lane is pushing away from CLG. The lane is basically dead for CLG. They can't farm there. They're losing farm, while P1 is farming all 3 lanes, stacking the bottom wave for Nautilus, swapping AD carry and Nami to top lane, take the tower gold. So they're basically, hey, Nautilus, here, you get big ass wave on bot lane, and you can just, bot lane, you can just take this tower, and you get the tower gold.
Zig is a little slow on the play. Actually, Stixxay right now is walking to the bot lane and shoving the entire wave in. So it's a giant wave that, I mean, this is like a 2-3 stacked wave that's actually gone now. He
should have been there.
Yeah, P1 was slow to get there. I mean, Zig was fighting and he did a late recall.
Right, it's that kind of situation where you have the play set up so that you would recall Zig earlier, but because of the skirmish that kind of broke out on the top side, he stuck around for support, make sure that they really win that one. And I think you're much happier to grab those kills than necessarily pick up a minion wave or two. And this is kind of the top laner tank life. You're there for your team. You see all those minions dying, you want them, but you don't need them.
I'm very surprised how quickly this game turned. Right, like we're just picking Olaf, taking the kills, and then just snowballing out of control. I was actually expecting that CLG would be ahead early game, and then P1 would be like clawing back into the with the better comp, but it completely opposite.
I think it's you can look at kind of the jungle matchup as maybe one of the few spots that P1 had an advantage in the early game, and they were able to basically snowball the entire game off that fact that Meteos picked up that early double kill, as well as the early roam by Adrian contributing to that, and then they kind of snowballed out like crazy with the invades around the bot side. They redove at 6 because they had the advantage in the bot lane, and P1 kind of smashed after that, mostly off the back of that mid jungle or the jungle skirmish.
Yep. A lot of things that they do after they take all the other turrets, they swap the AD carry and support mid lane because that's where they have the pressure and the jungler plays around them. They're so ahead that they have the arrow as well to catch up, and then the way they do it, that Syndra stays with them until one side of the map is pushed towards them, and then just the mid laner goes pick up the wave, and then he groups again with Ashe and Nami, and they constantly look for arrows and plays because right now they're super strong.
And I got a little question for you about solo queue, because I feel like this is something that annoys a lot of mid laners when their AD carries win bot lane and they don't quite know what to do, so they just run up mid. And we're talking about how that's a good thing to do, but you need to do it at the right times and stuff like that. So what advice would you give for some of the solo queue players to look out for, and when's the right time to go to certain places on the map?
If I play solo queue, I try to just stay at bottom as much as I can, because if I do something like swapping top lane or swapping mid lane, I put my team into a position they're not familiar with, even though I am, right? I know how to play those, but they are very unfamiliar with it because not many solo queue players know how to do this. And then they basically don't know what to do. They die left and right. So if you're playing solo queue, just try to be out bot lane as much as possible. If you take tower and Drake, then you can look to swap mid lane, take mid tower, but don't try to swap top lane.
But you're basically rotating just to make the play on the turret. You're still, it's like, well, it's shoved out. I've got 30 seconds of alone time. I guess I'll join the Syndra and hope you get some damage out of this.
You can steal some farm from mid lane and look to do some play with your support, or you can Most of the times it's very easy to follow your jungler because jungler won't normally follow you. So in Sulky, just follow your jungler as ADC and support, and that's gonna help you a lot.
All right, so into the team fight, basically it's up to Arrow to try to kite back. He does survive the Roshan, and now you're trying to auto attack as much as you can, right? You just, as long as you're staying out of range of everyone else, mostly melee champions.
Yeah, this looked like almost perfect for CLG because they managed to almost kill Arrow, but like if they do this right and they still can't kill Arrow, it's a bad news for them.
Yeah, I mean, P1 definitely have the kind of just want to group up and siege under a turret comp. CLG has a lot of engage tools. It wasn't the worst engage, but being down, 7,000 gold almost at this point already is pretty brutal.
Minutes.
Yeah, so no surprise there that the engage wasn't enough, despite it being, in an even game state, maybe enough to easily blow up Arrow there.
Yeah.
Unfortunately for us, Arrow's like maybe the least impactful player on his team this game.
Hey!
He landed pretty good arrows since arrows all turned into kills.
He had 3 out of 4 arrows, and the other one forced Suhi's flash, I believe.
Yeah.
Might have been the Nami tidal wave, but...
Yeah.
Well, in theory, he was everywhere where he needed to be,
right?
Except the first jungle gang. But in theory, he was part of it again because he was winning lane and he was pushing.
By shoving bot lane, it let the Nami go over. So of course, it was still congratulations, Arrow.
Yeah.
Everything that ever happens for P1 is because of Arrow.
It's because of Arrow.
Arrow is beast.
Yeah. So like he gets perfect taunted too, like right onto the leap.
Gets hit by the shock blast as well. I mean, Arrow. Like I was saying, in a normal team fight, that's probably enough to finish off Arrow, but because your Jace is weaker, your Rengar's weaker, they don't quite combo for as much damage as they should.
Nami exhausted.
Right. I mean, well played by P1 as
sure.
Well.
Yeah, they peeled it right. I mean, they did everything they could have, and it worked out for them, but...
Yeah, right now, they can just look for making a Baron play, right? They have nothing else to do.
They got 30 seconds.
Yeah, I mean, they
set up for it.
They can set up for it. There's an Infernal coming, but that's like far away. Right now, they can either they can push one wave, get a jungle vision in enemy jungle, and start farming enemy jungle camps. That's just the best thing you can do right now when you don't really have objectives to do. The enemy jungle will suffer so much if you just take his camps. It's ridiculous, and you will get so ahead if you're ADC.
Of course, yeah. You get all the farm, feels great. So, trying to live into the jungle right now. We can see that P1 don't have a ton of vision, and you're noticing, by the way, I want to point out that Arrow is almost always near a teammate, right? He's never in a spot where he's gonna get Xmithie ganked. He's following Adrian around, someone else helping him kill the wave away. He's not alone on Ashe, hoping Rengar doesn't see him.
I want to go back a little bit and talk about the initial gank by Xmithie on the top side that burned Zig's flash. While it might seem good on paper, I think there's a lot of times in competitive League of Legends, at least, where you can look at something and say, even though you got something out of it, you didn't get enough. And so do you think it was worth the freedom that it gave P1's bot lane to play aggressive, showing on top side just to get a flash in a tank v tank matchup? Or do you think that was more CLG's bot lane fault for getting beaten that hard kind of?
Yeah, you always have to look at it as a trade-off, right? Because Shen loses to Nautilus early game, so that they basically traded Shen early game, so Shen gets a bit slightly ahead or doesn't lose the early game, while their bot lane loses the early game because they split the map sort of and show the jungler, and then that's really for the team to decide if it's worth for them. If you have a better AD carry player than better top laner player, then it's worth for you to play on bot side. If not, then it's better for you to play top side, and that's like a team strategy. But for me, it's just, I think it was way better for P1 that he ganked top lane, Zig didn't die, and that way Arrow just played so aggressively on the tower, took so much damage, and then they managed to just kill the tower with Olaf.
And at this point, he's just joined the team, be part of the siege. Xmithie got himself killed kind of for free before the fight even started, and Arrow's just there to attack things. He'll regen things to the red buff. He doesn't really have any lifesteal to speak of, so he's kind of sit there waiting for Nami heal. But
it's forever.
Yeah, I mean,
like
he gets Nami heals
versus Disdains, but yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, I mean, like, CLG can't do anything about this. Like, this is a game where your team won, and again, we can recount what Arrow's done, right? Everyone's been in those games where your laners win, and you just need to not feed. You just need to be part of the win. And, I mean, this is one of those games where Arrow, okay, he got the lane pressure, right? He kept pushing. He played around when Xmithie could be ganking. He played safe when Adrian roamed out to get the top lane double kill.
Yep.
And then he landed all his arrows, and he made sure to not be alone so that he didn't die to Xmithie, right? Those are the major points of this game, right?
Arrow is one of the very patient players, and then AD carries, and then LCS is very consistent. He dies the least, I think, out of all the AD carries.
Yeah.
There were some
a ton
games.
Of CS still.
Yeah, he gets tons of damage, tons of CS, and dies the least. There was like some win streak they had, like 8 games where he died only once in all those games, which is ridiculous in this meta, right? You're playing versus assassins or versus lethality champions. So you can see that how patient he is. That's one of my problems when I play AD carry. I just really want to do something, be part of something, and that I'm out of position, get a caught. So it's very important for you guys, if you play AD carry, to be as patient as you can. Bait the enemy team to hit your teammates. You know, like let's kill my mid laner and then I jump in. That sort of play style you can do.
Speaking about the Ashe pick in particular a little bit, we saw another stat there. It's 4 out of 5 arrows now for Arrow. A lot of people sometimes do this thing with Ashe where they have this cooldown, they sit on it, and then they say, all right, I'm going to shoot it up mid on a recall. Do you think that's something that's worth going for? Because I've talked to a lot of pro players, a lot of coaches, and they have differing opinions on the usage of Ashe's arrow. It's better to save it should there be an all-in bottom or you need it. Or it's good to shoot mid because you might get yourself a kill and you can snowball off that. How do you personally feel about using Ashe's arrow kind of aggressively like that?
So I actually like sort of spamming, not like spamming on cooldown, but like always when you have a, you know, you say in 20 seconds, I have a arrow, guys, let's set up a vision or look to do something we can do. Like usually when you set up vision, the enemy team will fight for the vision, and then your opportunity to arrow is very high because it's very easy to hit the arrow inside of the jungle. There's not the narrow spaces where they can't really escape unless they flash. So always looking for arrow plays is really good. It's not good to spam it like on cooldown, but it's not good to sit on it as well. And most of the AD carries that play Ashe, they do the Essence Reaver build. So you have a very low cooldown arrow, and at that point you should always look to play aggressively, like he does.
There you go. Gets after move. Probably no one to hit right there. And look at that. Tidal have actually stopped Xpither from getting in there. And he's just completely safe, right? Rengar didn't get on. He can just auto attack for free on anyone he wants to.
Yeah, at this point they were trying to save the arrow target, but then doesn't matter, you know. You made your pawn as an AD carry Ashe. You already engaged. They tried to help him, and that was their mistake. They just lost. At this point, they can win the team fight, and yeah.
Well, they're going to be able to end the game.
Yeah, if Huhi walks back in, Ryu gets a Penta for this one. He's got the Quadra already.
Let's go, Penta.
Yeah, they're going for the dive.
Come on, Huhi.
No boss.
Huhi doesn't want to give it away. Pentas are earned. I can respect that. I can respect that. And now the respawns are in, so it can't be a Penta anyway. GG, 25 minutes. Phoenix One absolutely smashed this one. And
yeah,
you know, again, we can recount Arrow's portion of this game, which was early lane pressure. Again, actually did pay off into the double kill in the jungle and Medios
sort of
snowball.
Sort of.
I mean, it was relevant, right?
Yeah.
I think without the Nami, they don't invade. The second kill was because of the Nami, I think. Like,
yeah, true.
Again, Arrow did comparably less than Medios did, but that I think it was still a requirement. It was step A in that plan.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of the meta that people talk about a lot. And that's actually why some AD carries don't enjoy the meta right now, is because it is so much more about letting
enable your teammates.
Yeah, letting your teammates do things. So what did Arrow do in that last team fight, right? He shot the arrow to set the fight up, and then he just kited back. Yeah. That's pretty much all you need to do on a number of these champions. You know, your Varus, throw that ult out, snipe a Q through, back up, or something like that. So, I mean, he does that stuff extremely well. There's a reason that we consider him the best in the league, though.
He hits a lot of skill shots.
Yeah, he does. I think he was 5 out of 6 that game at that point by the end of it. And that's the thing is I can see the memes right now. Oh, ADC is useless. Oh my gosh, you can't do anything bot lane. But this was a game where the Syndra and the Olaf snowballed really hard, really fast, right? Like, they're ahead. All you have to do is just say, go Olaf, and you win the game for free.
And I think that's something that some players should learn to do is if other people are carrying, you don't need to make a play. You need to stop their play. And I think that's something that overall they had done a fairly good job of as a team. There was that one engage, CLG at bottom, and Arrow almost died. And
there's so many pros that have this problem, right? Their team is doing so well, they're so ahead, and then the AD carry still is like, I need to do something, I need to carry.
Gank for me. It's like, we have a 7-0 Poppy top lane. Gank for me!
Yeah.
It's like, no.
I mean, it was the same when I was on H2K. I was used to carrying a lot, and then for some reason, like, my team was carrying me every game, right? I was like, I felt so bad.
Was smashing everyone every game.
I wasn't able to carry them, so I felt bad, and I started doing like these dumb mistakes where I was overforcing everything.
You wanted Limelight.
And because I wanted, I was the spotlight. Give me the spotlight.
Yes,
the AD carry, please. And that didn't work. So you really have to learn patience and learn how to get carried.
Yeah, and of course you did pretty well. So let's refocus the decision. Was there much Stixxay could have done in this game? I think the matchup maybe is a bit weaker. Ashe seemed to outlane Jhin. You said Ashe is supposed to win the lane every time. So really quick hit, what could Stixxay do differently? If he could have.
That one is hard. They should like play a different champion, maybe like all-in champions if they really want to win the lane. But it wasn't really their part to lose the game, right? It was more like mid jungle just get rolled over and they can really do anything. But like if they would see that, if they would knew that that's gonna happen, or if they knew that that's the weak part of the team, they should be playing, let's say, Trash versus Nami. It's a hard matchup. They will most likely get pushed in. lose again, but then you can coordinate with your jungle. Hey, come here. We have a Lantern gank level 3. We will flash onto them, and then they can try to kill.
Okay, well, we'll hear more about this matchup in the next one, but for now, let's talk over to the analyst desk, get a little breakdown of the game overall. We'll be back for game 2.
We're going to get it in a later round.
Right.
Knowing that Smithy is not performing on the champion, right? And this is my problem with it. Graves is taken off the table, so he cannot go for the Graves, but there's a lot of other champions that are still available in the jungle, and Smithy has shown that he's not successful on this. You know, there's only, like, there's a couple jungle bans, but there's still Lee Sin, there's still Nidalee, there's still, like, a lot of champions. There's Rek'Sai, there's...
And CLG is also giving a lot of resources to this to work, having that Shen to be able to go in with Rengar, having Poke that the Jace can put in pre, so you can flank with that Rengar and even have a wish from Soraka to make things work.
And I mean, kind of what I want to talk about is that I think this is a great draft. When you look at this, if you take away the team name, you're like, great, it works well for them. But the problem is, just because you have a good team and good champions does not mean that it works well for you. And that's what we want to talk about a little bit with Smithy, you know, on the Rengar. They even have a team composition that works, but it was not successful.
Absolutely, and coming out in the early of the game, we're speaking about junglers. Player of the game coming into this one was Meteos on the other end. That Olaf play, being able to start things off in the early part of the game, really get things rolling. And we've heard from P1 since he started, it feels more comfortable to go in or let him do his own thing. And when he does his own thing, he can usually get things rolling.
Yeah, exactly. And Olaf is not a high priority champion, right? This is not something that a lot of people are playing. But Meteos is showing comfort, like, play what works for you. You do not have to play the highest tier champion that is always available. You can play what you're good at. And Meteos takes the Olaf,
Zach.
massively outperforms the Rengar here. You know, Smithy was getting caught out left and right. He is 3-1 on the champion, but his stats are not good whatsoever on this champion. People are going to continue to leave it up against him because they are happy for Smithy to be picking it. And I think that CLG needs to realize this and needs to figure something out. Either you have to just accept the fact that you have to ban it away from your opponents and just take that as a hit to your team. Hey, we can't play it, they can. That's on us, right? You have to take that extra ban and kind of lose that. Or you have to have him figure out some sort of another answer, because this has been a problem with CLG all season long, and Meteos just stomped this game.
Yeah, he has been looking very good coming into the side of P1. Ryu as well in the mid lane to have Meteos kind of be able to fly around. He does so well controlling the lane on anything. They know how to play against that Jace. You see the Syndra this game, and we see on CLG side things start to flounder a little bit. We talked about picks and bans. We also know that previously, you know, Darshan would ban out that Camille on blue side. Things that they have always looked to do and kind of save people from either having to play a champion, but now putting Smithy on that champion that we kind of see to be possibly an error for them to keep taking this Rengar. We'll have to see more as we go into the later parts of the game. Obviously, looking at the bot lane, we had Freak, Mark Z, and Freeze going on chatting about that. Arrow having another great game as well. And Stixxay, they still put up a great fight in the bot lane. It was a great lane to watch.
Yeah, I mean, you were talking about Ryu as far as consistency. Arrow is another guy. These two players just don't really seem to have bad games. It's not that they're hard carrying every single game, but it never feels like, oh man, Arrow is why they lost that game. Oh, Ryu is why they lost that game. And I think there's so much to be said for this. They're never the anti-carry, right? They're never keeping you out of the game. They will be consistent performers. Arrow is so safe. He's on point with his skill shots. He always has high damage done. He's just so effective. He's really everything you want from an AD carry, and I think that was showcased pretty well this game.
So how might CLG kind of strong arm next picks and bans against P1?
I mean, CLG talks a lot about we don't want to play our opponent's style. We shouldn't care what they're doing. We should play our own style. And I think that they need to be true to that with Smithy. This is not working. Switch it up. Get him on something he's comfortable on. Pick priority be damned. You need to be comfortable on your champions.
All right. Well, we will see if CLG can put up a fight in game 2 or if Phoenix 1 can close this one out with a clean 2-0. We'll be back right after this break.
My name is Huhi. Haunted houses are spooky. I like cats who are floofy. My name is Darshan. Enemy top laners make me yawn.
Oh, spitting bars.
There's number 2. Ryu's going to be grabbing that one. Darshan exhausted. And Phoenix 1 is going to be going 3 for 0. Focus Fire going to be finding number 1. Meteos pressing the go button. Pedal to the metal. Arrow cashing in on that one too. 4 for 1. Still a great choice. Zig gets to the party a little bit late, but he's still mopping these guys up. Oh, bucket at the ready.
A little bit more damage will do it onto Xmithie as well. A triple kill for the big man. Teleports right into the stun. A triple kill for Phoenix One's mid laner. Who he gonna be chased down by that Nautilus ulti. Stixxay gonna be going down next, most likely. That Olaf is just berserk running him down. A quadra kill for Ryu. Are we gonna see the big Penta? The Nexus falls, and Phoenix One in not even 25 minutes takes game number 1.
Welcome back, everyone, to the North American LCS. We are here for a bot lane carry focus stream. Stixxay and Arrow. Arrow got the better of game 1. It was probably a bit easy for him, to be fair. Meteos snowballed really hard, so he just had to be in the right place at the right time, and he was. His positioning was pretty solid. But now let's talk about CLG. We're going to be Stixxay focused, CLG's Fog of War, which there might be a lot of it.
Yeah, I'm going to hope that it's a little bit better of a game 2 from CLG here. Otherwise, it's going to be a lot of feels bad man for the AD carry. I mean, this is one of the things that makes people not like
ADC.
Yeah, AD carry in 2017.
And some ADC swap to mid lane.
I mean, a lot of people are looking at Piglet right now like, that wasn't a bad idea, actually. I
want to do this. There's only one mid lane, guys. There's going to be an even larger pool of players. So let's talk about, like, what do you do specifically if you're CLG and if you're Stixxay here? Like, do you say, screw it, let's play Lucian, Nami, and try to win lane? Like, is that even reasonable to do, or do you just have to hope that you don't get bashed in jungle again?
Well, you do have to hope that you don't get bashed in the jungle, but even if you play like heavy snowball lane, if this happens that early on in the lane, then the jungle just will camp you because they will know this is the lane that wants to be playing aggressively and getting ahead, right? So they will just camp you and then you can't do anything. So that you still have to really hope that it will go more evenly in the early game, but you can say, okay, this didn't work for us, the game plan that we had. We should look to do something more aggressive towards bottom side or towards top side because they got rolled over in jungle and mid.
Yeah, I mean, if you talk about what CLG's plan was kind of that game, it was definitely at 6 start diving bot comp. That's what we were saying last game, but they never got a chance to get there because by 6 the game was basically already blown open. Yeah. So maybe you say, okay, let's take a little bit stronger of a skirmishing jungler, but it comes down to a lot of execution. And maybe like the one thing you can look at for CLG to do different is not even bother ganking the top side early. Like we were talking about how it does relieve some pressure off the Shen, but that puts more pressure on your bot lane. And maybe that's something they'll look to do next game if they end up in another tank versus tank matchup.
All right, so champs are going to be here pretty soon. As I check the computer, I believe all 10 players are in. Yes, they are. So game will be in a champs like very shortly. Of course, CLG now on the blue side. And I mean, we saw that the Ashe beat the Jhin in lane. And even though the Jhin was like 6-1 and 4 respectively, well, now it's 6-2 for Stixxay, unfortunately. Again, I kind of just refocus, like, how important is the laning phase version of this matchup?
So normally, I would right now expect that they would just first pick Varus because that's a very strong champion. But then, given the fact that we talked about how bad for them it is and how low win rate they had, like 1 win, 8 losses on Varus for Stixxay, that means that they will not ban Varus and they will not potentially even first pick it. And if they leave it open, then Arrow can pick it because he was playing well with it. And then we will have a Jhin versus a Varus matchup, but it's better for Jhin. So that could be played for Stixxay, right? If he plays Jhin, he knows he's better Jhin than Varus. He will willingly give the Varus to Arrow, but then it's still Varus, right?
Yeah,
everything thinks it's OP, and that no one wants to play against it.
I mean, Varus is the only 100% pick ban champion aside from LeBlanc and 7.4 in competitive right now. Those are the only 2 champions that have been through every single champ select. Now, granted, that sample is NA Challenger and EU LCS this week, so it's like 18 games, but those are the only 200%ers right now. And it was the first ban red side by CLG over in game 1. They were clearly afraid of it in the first game. We'll see if that does change up here as the Elise is banned off the table and no Thresh for Aframu. So you're seeing like these, and I feel like Thresh was actually banned in the previous game as well. I think
that's something I was going to touch on was the fact that there were a fair amount of actual support bans in that game. I think there was a Malzahar ban. There might have been a Karma ban as well. So
I know there was Zyra in phase 2.
Yeah, so there was a lot of support bans, and those are actually really important in the laning phase. We were saying how it might even be more important than the actual AD carry matchup. So if Phoenix One is a little concerned about the bot lane, it's almost easier to target the supports.
They banned Varus as well, even though they were 1-8 Varus. But I really like the Thresh ban, right? You don't want to put Aframu on a comfortable champion that he can snowball with, which is specifically Thresh. You know that the CLG bot lane plays very aggressively compared to other bot lanes. They have the highest CS difference at 10 minutes. They're basically the best laners given the stats.
They're the best lane in NA.
You want to take away just the snowballing champions because you know if you play safe, you get out of the lane, then you feel more comfortable with Arrow outplaying Stixxay in mid game.
And it is the kind of thing where there's not that many playmaking champions in the bot lane you need to really worry about from the support pool. I mean, Nami, Karma, Soraka, even Malzahar and Zyra to an extent are a lot more focused on like quick trades and all-ins, and Thresh really is that one that wants to flash lantern gank and hook and pull people in for extended all-ins. So
wow, Phoenix One actually banning the Ashe away. They think it's super important. I mean, Phoenix One first picked it in the first game of the series, and now they don't want to give CLG the chance to do that either. Of course, Jhin obviously left up, and it's a screaming first pick at this point, but I wonder if that's actually what they think is most important.
There's a Rengar, there's a Shen still.
And the Camille, but it went through last time.
Yeah, they didn't really prioritize it last time, so don't really know if the P1 will pick it, but they should, right? You should always pick a... you already see Shen, right? You already know what top laner they have, you can counter top lane. But normally you would just pick jungler now and ADC, which would be the Jhin. Because you just you banned the good S tier 1 AD carries. That screams, as you said, just Jhin pick. And Arrow is really comfortable on Jhin.
And on top of the fact that Zig does have a handful of counter picks he can pull out versus the Shen. He plays Jace, he plays GP, he can play Fiora, he can play pretty much anything. So
yeah, you can even play Camille into it. It's not that good early game. Shen wins early game versus it, but then once 30 minutes happens, then Camille just walls over everyone. And there goes the Rengar.
All right, so Rengar in for Meteos. I know before he said he didn't know the champion very well, but it's been 2 weeks since he last played in the LCS, so maybe he's gotten a bit more comfortable on the champion. I guess it's debatable for some players whether it's the +1 jungler or not.
There's Graves. There's Graves.
Right, Graves is up there. Kha'Zix is close, probably not above. Elise I've seen very high priority as well. So
there's this S plus tier that's Rengar and Graves, both of them there, and then there's S plus S that's Kha'Zix, and then you have other champions like Lee and Elise, right?
Yeah.
Ezreal. Wow.
And they didn't want to wait until more bans came through as well. Actually, would you like? I mean, this depends on the player's champion pool, but are you really in a rush to grab Ezreal, or is like Ezreal, Caitlyn, Sivir, like are they all in the same boat?
I wouldn't rush to pick Ezreal, right? Because if the S tier AD carries are already banned, then you don't really need to. I think Stixxay can play a lot of champions. We saw him play Sivir. Sivir is good versus Jhin. Ezreal is good versus Jhin. And then you can play Caitlyn, MF. These champions are worse. Maybe he felt like if they would pick Sivir and Ezreal, then he would be really out of place because he didn't practice those other champions, which usually happens a lot in scrims. You don't see those AD carry bans like you see this time, and that puts an AD carry main out of comfort zone.
Yeah, and just overall draft strategy, it's not too uncommon to just say, well, let's just match in the first round so you don't end up in these really lopsided ban system where it's like, okay, well, they banned Sivir and Caitlyn, so I have to pick this thing, and then we ban out, probably the top
mid laners. We grabbed Ryze instead.
Right, so instead they're opting for more of this even where you see both top jungle and AD carry taken for both teams.
Yep, all the same 3 roles, so we'll see what the bans end up being through. It's basically now down to supports. We know it's Ezreal on one side, Jhin on the other. Are there any predictions you think are screaming to you right now, or is there anything you're looking for synergy-wise?
For Phoenix, it screams Karma for me, because Karma is fairly good with Jhin, and it's very good with Rengar Nautilus. The more tanks you have on your team, the better Karma is, because the shield effectiveness is just ramps up with tankiness. So that's, for me, screams Karma. It's really good versus the CLG team as well, because they can disengage if Shen TP somewhere with the Karma Mantra shield. And for CLG, let me see.
I was going to say the Malzahar makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, Malzahar makes a lot of sense.
It's one of the few playmaking AD supports that's still left on the table. It takes a little bit longer. You have to get to 6 before it can do that. But then if you're concerned about Aphromoo potentially trying to all-in your bot lane or roaming around, taking the Malzahar off the table is pretty nice.
I want to see if they ban Zyra. I still feel like Zyra's pretty good. I know she got nerfed in 7.4, but she's still seeing a fair bit of pick ban, and it's going to be left up. I believe it was banned in the previous game, so we'll see if P1 wants to play the champion themselves, or if CLG maybe does. But no Jace allowed. Honestly, I would have let P1 grab Jace, and they're an all-AD team, but that's not what CLG wanted.
Yeah, and I think the Karma pick still makes some sense here. You want to grab it before CLG have a chance to, or
or you're Adrian and you just play Soraka.
You just play Soraka over it. I mean, hey, for the same reason, though, Soraka can heal the tanks, keep them invincible forever.
I would love it. I would love it. Afro does. This is actually something that makes Afro really annoying to play Soraka against, because there's always been a handful of these kind of players in the LCS where they play this one really annoying thing, and then if you ever try and take it away, they have the counter prepared. And for CLG, they love playing Soraka. So does Adrian, but Afro always has this.
It would be only for lane though, because if I've played, you still have Ezreal, right? But like you play versus Rengar and Nautilus, you will most likely hook one of those. You won't hook anyone else, because they have such a big particles that it's very hard to hit anything else.
To be fair, hooking the Rengar is not always the worst thing. Rengar's generally pretty squishy. If he's on your AD carrier, you have the punch knock up and then the Q pull away. You can silence him as well. Like, it's not the most horrendous pick into Rengar, but I agree. It's definitely a little lane focus if they go with the Blitzcrank. I would love to see it though.
Well, let's see what they pick. I'm very curious.
I'm actually surprised we don't see Ryze at all in this pick ban, by the way. Bard, okay. Bard can be aggressive.
Yeah, Bard is, or was considered very good into Jhin, because he could always cancel his ult with his own ultimate, and then it just fall off. No one started playing it. It's good versus Soraka as well, so I really like this pick. And we knew that from the Aphramoo's career how good his Bard is, right? His portals everywhere. He carried every single fight. And I'm very excited for it.
Right, we're talking about being able to get off the lane and start making plays around the map. I mean, Bard is great for that, starting really early on. The fact that he can portal in from these weird angles, start influencing other lanes.
Yeah.
And at 6, he gets a lot of playmaking as well.
All right, so tell me, how do you play the lane for CLG? Are you allowed to leash? Right, do you jump into the brush at level 1? Like, what? You want to win this game from CLG's bot lane. You've got some good laners. How do you do it?
You don't usually leash anymore. With any pick you have, you don't leash unless you get very pushed in and you have melee support, and you can afford to leash because you will get pushed anyway. But you still don't do it because you lose so much pressure and so much priority in the bot lane that they just snowball it heavily until level 4. So you don't leash. But then CLG bot lane, honestly, I would be comfortable playing Jhin Soraka in this lane, because CLG has to kind of outplay to do something around the lane. But then again, I really like this Bard pick from Aphromoo, because that's the sort of pick that CLG needs. They need something new. They need something that roams around the map, can pressure everything, has a CC, and can get carried or can carry the game, which is all they need basically from the bottom side.
Yeah, so the Bard can roam, even the Ezreal can help with the ulti, so these guys can start getting involved in the game a little bit more. Just to refocus here, so this is still more picked just for the fact that they can affect the rest of the map. It's not really for the lane itself, but it allows the players to do things outside of lane and maybe help the rest of the members of CLG here.
Ezreal also being a good pick to be left 1v2, having that Q farm ability. So
it's very good versus Rengar since you can buy the armor build when you
can go Iceborne or Ninja Tabby and it's fine.
Yeah.
And yeah, you can, as soon as he jumps, you can Arcane Shift and you're pretty much guaranteed to dodge his Q. And you can kind of just kite from there. So you're right. I personally like Ezreal a lot against these scary assassins as well because I can build and I can kite. So Stixxay will be pretty safe, and now we get to see how they're going to play the lane matchup. You were talking about snowballing pressure, like that no one in competitive leashes anymore because lane pressure is too important, unless you're playing melee.
Once again, like if you don't leash and you start pushing level 1 because you were faster in lane, then you maintain that pressure of pushing to level 4, where your support can recall first and do the same thing. Go mid lane, try to ward there or gank mid laner, or even go with jungler somewhere. So that's really good from the bottom lane when you get this push advantage. And I feel like Ezreal Bard can push Jhin Soraka.
Is that starting level 1? Because this is definitely a different type of bot lane. Neither of these are great pushing level 1 bot lane. So is the advantage in the Bard Ezreal?
Soraka and Jhin, they can push pretty heavily. They should be if it would be even case, they should be pushing faster than Ezreal Bard. But Ezreal Bard has such a good level 1 that they will, even before the minions come, they will push them out, or they should be able to push them out of the lane, and they should start hitting the wave when it's coming. Yeah, so they will be hitting the wave even before it crashes in the middle of the lane, which means even though they have slower push level 1, these champions, then they will still push faster.
And just to hop on this point a little bit more, because I think this is one of the points that does transition very well from competitive to solo queue, is you don't necessarily need to have a stronger push level 1 to win the level 1 push. If you out-trade really hard, you focus more on trading level 1 than pushing. So if you let Soraka queue the backline and Jhin queue the creeps as well, you will probably lose the push as Ezreal Bard. But if you just start autoing champions instead, then you win the push because you out-trade.
Yeah, given the champions you play, if you have Ezreal or Ashe, or even Caitlyn, these champions are so good for level 1 because they have high range, high ability to just outrange your enemy AD carry and out-push them from the lane. And this is something that they were trying to do, and you can see them here. Like they should just move up and then don't let them come from here. This is a silent mistake from CLG. They shouldn't have let Arrow walk through there because they can stun him on the wall and they can zone him from Qs.
Yeah, at least they're zoning Adrian
they're
off,
still zoning very well.
Okay. Yeah, so get the autos first. They cut off the retreat path. You're right again about Arrow. He probably should have had to miss some of this, but looks like Afrom's kind of squaring off and grabbing chimes, and we're, just letting kind of Stixxay push. And he's 1v1, right? So, seeing how Ezreal and Jhin play the 1v1, I know one of the big things to watch out for in this matchup, actually, decent trade. He's playing really aggressively. Of course, he's level 2 first. But one of the big things I've noticed from watching bot lane is one of the core priorities is standing behind your minion waves that you don't get Mystic Shot very often. And that's one of the big tells I see of like good Ezreals and good people who are against Ezreal is that you don't get to cast Mystic Shots because they're always in position for it.
There's a strike. Oh my god. Ooh, this looks. Meteos might be in trouble.
He's just dead.
Oh my god.
He didn't even flash over the wall. He just gave that one away to Aphromoo.
Well, he was in a bit of a weird spot where Afro definitely would have followed with flash as well, given the fact that Graves was in the top side cutting off a regular escape.
This was a very big mistake from Meteos because he was seen earlier from one mid lane. We saw him for half a second on mid lane where he was just passing behind his Syndra for I don't know why, but for that reason they knew where he would be and they invaded. And that once again they were using the push advantage from bottom side, and then Grace invaded as well. Arrows might be in trouble.
Yeah, well, Exhaust used early enough, but Arrows just, I guess, Mystic Shot, the Q's gonna get him. Yeah. Wow.
I mean, there you see the snowball coming in the other way this time around.
This was perfect Q flash from Bard. That's one of the tricks you can do with Bard, where you just cast your Q and flash, and it's almost instant, and Arrow flash, but it's still stunned him because it catches him by the tail.
And I feel like we need to see that again because is any of this on Arrow playing it wrong? Like I want to talk about like, did Stixxay do something right? Like, did Arrow not respect Bard's stuns at all?
Their bot lane did the bad thing that they tried to cheese for some reason. They were trying to steal the enemy red buff with a lane that will get out push and that will get out zone. And then they went the greedy path and they were getting out pushed. And they split where Adrian just had to go around and Arrow had to go straight. And that made basically a board roam around, get the champs, see the Rengar, and then invade together with Graves.
And it was a very strange jungle start in general for CLG, not only because P1 was doing that kind of greedy invade, but Smithy actually started the pink ward on Graves and had one pot, and you can see that the pink ward is still available as Meteos getting caught out a little bit here.
He flashed. He didn't have to. He was actually safe. They weren't chasing him. So Meteos is actually screwing up kind of a bit, right? He got 1v1 by the support at level 2, and then he burned flash when he was actually totally safe. There's no CC left on him.
Right. Just touch back. You see Meteos showing on that pink ward right now once again. That was actually dropped basically level 1, and that's why he was getting tracked so heavily, like you said, which opened up Aframu to use that pressure that they got from the level 1 greediness of P1's bot lane of overstaying. And it was kind of just a slight, like, kind of waterfall of errors that led to this horrible start for P1's bot lane and jungle.
And that's why I really like the Bart pick, because then that gives the CLG the punish they can do and punish Meteos' greedy paths and greedy waves and aggressiveness in the jungle. And this is the Q flash from Bart. There is almost no way you can survive that after you get stunned. And then the Q back the damage.
He just gets the rest of it no matter what. That's just good by Afro then. I mean, that's almost no chance to kind of play that. Whoever gets Q stunned, their finish is just gone.
And you get to see a little bit of the difference in CLG when Afro's on that playmaker. Soraka can't make that play.
Yeah, sure. That's the point of champions to kind of play. So let's again, we're going to try to focus on Stixxay. Okay, you're in the winning lane. CS is equal. You're against sustain. Like, you don't get to poke out a Soraka lane, right? Like, is there even a point in trading, or are you just trading farm until you get another big play from Afro?
You can still try to trade the Jhin to make him a bit scared. It's more like a mind game. If you hit few Qs on him, he will be more afraid to walk up and not play aggressively. But it's really no point in poking. Stixxay is in very perfect spot right now. He can farm with Qs. He can say, Aframu, you can roam permanently. Arrow has no items. He has 1 longsword, 1 boot. I have tier. I have all I need for my laning phase. I have potions. You should just try to pressure somewhere else, because I'm all good on my own.
And talking about Ezreal a little bit, he's not the best champion in terms of getting that kind of like early snowball going. The most he gets is that extra breathing room, like you're saying, with having his tier early in the pots. He's not the type to necessarily start running over a lane the same way some of the other armor pen champions can be.
Yeah, he only got an assist anyway, so that was like 75 gold.
Right.
I mean, I guess Arrow misses part of the lane, so there's some XP differences. Stixxay, I want to point out, is going Fervor. I think Fervor Ezreal is easily
very
correct,
strong, yes.
even regardless of like a sustained matchup. Fervor stacks it, or he stacks it really fast. It applies on his Q, and you are safe in general.
The only way I would go Warlords if I would play against Caitlyn Nami, for example, that would be very rough lane for me. Then I would consider playing Warlords. But then again, in this meta, you go 3 potions on 80 carries, so that should be enough for you as a sustain.
Is there ever a time not to go 3 potions longsword or 4 potions boots?
If you play versus an all-in lane, let's say if you play versus Trash, or if you play
Leona or something.
Leona, then you really need to get that HP from the Dorans. Blitzcrank, for example, to you. These all-in champions, or even 80 carries, you need to play Dorans versus them.
Good job, Afro.
Afro just roams everywhere at this point.
Well, yeah, I mean, some of that's Bard and some of that's, again, the fact they had grabbed Ezreal earlier on in the draft to make sure it was kind of safe. So unfortunately, quick pause in the game. We'll talk about more of what's going on later. So yeah, I guess let's talk about the state of the game we're in. It's snowballing a little bit. It's a 700 gold lead right now for Phoenix 1. Overall, CLG is winning. Now, in the previous game, Meteos was like 7-0 5 minutes in, and it was just like, if you don't feed, you win the game for free. This is a game where Stixxay has an individual small lead. Like most, the advantage is because of bot lane. Does this, it feels like Stixxay needs to be part of the reason that CLG wins. So how do you sort of achieve that goal?
Definitely. If you are able to push and then call your support to roam, because you know you're on your own and you're good, if you're playing Ezreal or Caitlyn, those champions are very good in 1v2 scenarios, so you can never deny them because of the range.
Right. As
Ezreal, you can always farm with keys. So at that point, you should always tell your support you should be roaming or grouping with your jungler. We saw several times where Xmidi and Aframu were together at least 4 times before level 5, which is at this point insane amount of time they are together, and they were punishing Meteos' greedy jungle path, warding around so he can gank, and then that just puts him so much behind, and you don't even fall behind as Ezreal. Like, you can't really get ahead in this lane, because even if you get the perfect race, it's Soraka again, they will just heal up. So at this point, at some point you have to realize, if you play versus lane where you can get ahead, you have 2 options. You have either tower damage, that you will focus on hitting the tower and chunking down the tower and then go for the first break, or you will say, support, put some pressure mid lane or jungle, because we can't get ahead.
Just want to touch on a couple more plays that might be available for this team and what your thoughts are on them. You do have a Bard and a Shen, who are 2 champions who are great at diving bot turret early.
Oh, yeah.
You ult the turret as Bard so that there's none of that coming in. Then Shen ults a diver. The hard part is the fact that you have the Syndra versus Orianna matchup, and League is a very kind of interconnected game, and it's really hard to get mid priority with that matchup for CLG playing the Orianna. So do you think it'd be better coming into, starting to get level 6s in the game if Afro moves elsewhere on the map to snowball, or if it's better to bring the resources down bot lane and get a dive off?
It's very good to move mid lane, either with support, Afro having the lead from the laning phase, or with Smithit jungler, he can just Q the wave, push with Orianna, and then they all move together to bottom side, that bottom side. But that's very telegraphed, and then that way, like they're trying to do it right now, and they're trying to pressure Orianna. Then again, Stixxay, I'm fine bot lane. Just do whatever you have to. After move, roam whatever you want. I can be 1v2.
Yeah, and hey, they pushed Ryu off the turret, so that's good stuff for him. And yeah, he's just, and the thing is, like, I think this is different if Adrian's playing Leona.
Yeah.
Right? And if Zig's actually Shen. Like, suddenly he's instantly dead.
Yeah, it's just the fact that he blind picks Soraka, and then the perfect pick from Afro for Bard. He's known for it. He knows what he can do with it, and he knows this is the lane that Adrian cannot do anything, right? He can never engage on enemy Ezreal. He can never catch him, and he can never roam. Soraka roam is super bad. Yeah. If you roam as Soraka, you're just living ambulance, right? You just go mid lane, heal mid laner, and that's all you can do.
Yeah, so the CLG kind of creating a situation that puts Stixxay in a decent spot.
And now they're stealing blue buff once again, just with the pressure that Afrom gets. And Afrom gets to play the fan role. Stixxay is the guy that has.
You don't like shooting Qs? Q that?
Yeah, it's true. It is kind of unfortunate we got into a game where really the bot laner, specifically the carry, hasn't been the biggest impact here. It's just Stixxay, doing the best that he can. And I'm sure, in solo queue we have those supports, whether they're playing Nunu or whether they're just not very good at the role and they got autofilled. They're not.
At least we have a really good
supports. It's a really good support who's not in lane. So it's like, at least it's the lesson of how to play 1v2 lane at the very least. And it's like, yeah, he's willing to give up farm. Like, he's been zoned out a couple of times. But as soon as the wave is gone, he just shoves it back, and then he again plays around the wards. He's almost never by himself. Like, he's not going to be past the midpoint in this rush. He's there with Afromu. Afro's back in lane with him. He like cues the fog to see if someone's waiting. And again, he's just
the only thing P1 can do is freeze the lane. But then again, all Stixxay has to do, hey, they're freezing lane on me. Come back bot lane, Afromu, and let's push out together. And then they just start roaming again.
And I think it shows the importance of patience in this meta. We've seen 2 games, basically, where the AD carries did not have to play super aggressive or try and push advantages. There's a lot about waiting for their team to follow up on an Ashe arrow that you're about to hit, or sitting back and farming with Qs while your support goes around and tries to get other advantages. So I think you can kind of see how important it is in this meta to not just be that hyper-aggressive, hard carry that AD carries used to be in the past.
And now we could have seen Afromu and Stixxay play very passively, which is very good from them, because when you look at the minimap, you see Smith cleaning his topside jungle. So at that point, you always have to play according to your jungle as a bot laner. If your jungle is topside, you can never look for trades, you can never look for aggressive pushing. You have to wait till the jungler is around you, around the bottom side, and then you can start playing aggressively. And that's just showing that the CLG bot lane very much understands the game and how they have to play the lane.
You have, a lot of League of Legends is windows of power. Like, okay, Graves on the bot side. Afro shows up to help steal blue buff. He's got the wards down. We control that eastern jungle. Okay, well, Smithy's top side. All right, we're going to be back in lane. We're going to play behind. We're going to let them push us in. We'll just catch the farm when it's there. Let's not be diveable. In this ebb and flow of we can invade, don't die. We can invade, don't die.
And I actually very like the mana immune from Stixxay. Usually you get a Sheen on Ezreal, but in this lane, once again, even if you would get Sheen, it's very hard to do anything. Even if you hit every Q with the Sheen, Soraka will just heal through it. So buying mana immune and making it basically happen that, okay, I can win this lane, I will just go the most scaling build I can and stack your mana immune so much faster. That's very good from Stixxay.
And it's enough AD you can last it under turret without prepping it. You don't have to Q to kill the casters, you can just auto-attack it. I was going to ask about this control ward because Stixxay ulted and he sees that brush is control warded. Does that make you have to play the lane differently? Like, ooh, they might be sneaking Zig or Meteos into this lane? Or, as it turns out, they're able to shove and kill it off anyway, but does that change you sometimes?
CLG bot lane, once again, they recalled first because they pushed the wave. So when they came back, they knew after arrow pushing that there is an 80% chance that the bot lane had to recall. There's like very little chance, 20% chance that they didn't recall with boots and 2 longswords. They were trying to cheese them and all in them. But that's very little chance given the
it's a big
risk
to take.
Yeah, it's very big because then if they play safe and they don't get cheesed, then you just basically lose tower.
Yeah, and yeah, I mean that's the thing is there's a lot of Fog of War play in League of Legends where you're like, well, if Arrow chose to hide in that brush and sneak Meteos in, I guess it could have been a play.
That was a zoning ult.
Oh, W over the wall, and a great time.
Nice.
That was really good communication by CLG there. The fact that the ultimate was already coming in on Stixxay, who brought Shen into the play so that no one had to burn flash there really to follow up on that play at all. That's actually really well coordinated that Darshan did not go on Afromu, who was starting that play. Sometimes you just go to like the most vocal guy or the closest one at the start, but they had a really good angle there with Stixxay coming with the flank to get Darshan delivered right on top. And they're trying to pressure the turret now with this pick-off, but it's going to be pretty hard.
Yeah, Stixxay actually pulled aggro, had to run away, and now he's just kind of supporting Darshan, who's getting away from this, but now he's got to be very careful. A lot of damage on him. Took the 4th shot as well. He's still got a kite back, but he can Q, lands one more, and then he's ulting pretty much on cooldown in these fights. Like, it's not, it is a sniping tool, but it's not like the execution tool. You just want to cast it when it's going to hit somebody.
Yeah, it's a very good, again, if you can poke someone with your ultimate at this point, it's really good. Oh,
That's
a big shockwave.
Jeez, yeah. And that was all Stixxay.
Yeah, sure. But yeah, once again, if you have in this lane, if you can poke someone else, you should even be ulting mid lane. You know, when I'm looking at Ezreal play Bang and he plays versus a very heavy sustain lane, let's say Name, I even see him sometimes use the ult to either try to steal blue buff from jungle or red buff when they know that the spawn of the blue buff, or just trying to poke an enemy mid laner or top laner if they have no potions with the ult. Because then again, if you poke them, you just get healed.
Take another look at this play. You see.
Yeah, Stixxay push forward onto Arrow.
Darshan tries to save him.
Yeah, it was just a little too aggressive by Darshan and Stixxay trying to flank around from behind the turret when Zig can TP in and your Orianna's not close. It still ends up being a 4v4 after the TP in.
But then they turn it, who is coming, and then the poke from Ezreal, which is really good at this point. Soraka is not in lane to heal them, and then here they overstep, they feel like they can fight, but...
That ball, everyone forgets the ball's there. They just walk onto it.
Bam.
And Wish doesn't do enough for them. And yeah, I mean, Stixxay actually did Arcane Shift into the end there. He realized his team was up like ahead enough that he's just kind of putting as much damage down as he can. But again, he's just like, he's got to participate. He'll put down what damage he can. He wasn't the big star that one, but he's like, you know, I'm safe enough. We'll go for it. He should get away, Afro.
A slight mistake from Afro losing a pressure, or if he's too smart, baiting Arrow to play aggressively because of this mistake.
Yeah.
But Arrow should have played safe there, because if support does this, you know
someone else is there too.
Someone has to be there. Like at this level, your support doesn't do that on purpose.
Yep. And again, it was another aggressive Arcane Shift from Stixxay, talking about exactly how he's playing the matchup. He's like, this guy's dead for sure. I will maximize my damage, not going to risk a Wish save. And now he's going to roam over to try to help the team in the river, but they're fine.
And then again, this play just was very easily set up by Xmidi and Frumu. They grouped together in the river, cleansed the vision that P1 had, put their own vision, and then they tried to set up this play, which Arrow just didn't respect enough.
So talking about Ezreal being a little different than some of the other utility mid laners, or AD carries that we see now, is that a lot of people actually don't like putting it in the 1-3-1 quite as much. Or you know, having your AD carry hold mid quite the way you see Jhin and other things, and maybe I'll hold on to this point as we might see a dragon fight here. Nope.
The portal. Oh,
portal out. So 5v4 as they're trying to pull in the Ezreal. There's no Nautilus, no TP as well.
Trying to fight.
Yep, and he just, all right, once, and what's interesting is I want to point out the timing of Stixxay's ulti. He does it when he knows that he's in a stuck corridor, there's no way that Ryu dodges this anymore, and it's when the team is actually going to go fight someone.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, it's going to be Ryu. Okay, I'll ult now.
But just returning to the point now that about sending your Ezreal mid, I know some people are not a big fan of it as much as some of the other utility AD carries. What are your thoughts on putting the Ezreal mid to hold on to things? I mean, you probably wouldn't do that much with an Orion anyways, but just generally, is Ezreal a little safer in the side lanes, things like that?
He's obviously a little safer than other AD carries in side lane, but then you will still put the Ezreal mid lane and play versus the enemy AD carry, because Ezreal is really good. When it gets to the point where both bot laners will be mid lane, then Ezreal is so much better than Jhin, because he will push out Jhin, and he has such a fast follow-up on something. Jhin has as well fast follow with the ultimate, but Ezreal is at this point where he always pushes Jhin in, and then Jhin has to wave clear the wave, and then he can follow.
Do you think this is a mistake by CLG, kind of putting we'll take another look at this dive first, actually. Baiting Arrow in was Afro, right?
Yeah.
Taking that chunk.
Yeah.
Arrow's staying under that turret.
Yeah.
It's silly.
It's just, they just rotated from mid lane after they get mid priority, and there's nothing they could have done.
But the fact that they didn't keep Stixxay mid the way that you're saying it's fine to keep your Ezreal mid there. Do you think that was a mistake because it allowed P1 to pressure mid while also taking the bottom turret? It was Arrow who took that right then, and Stixxay all he did was push in the top wave. Do you think maybe that was a mistake, that syndrome that sometimes comes into AD carries where there's like, oh, there's a wave there, I can farm that wave?
Yeah, that was a slight mistake. It wasn't mostly on Stixxay, it was muscle on teams. I saw some staggered recalls. They didn't recall together, so they didn't really, they lose a lot of pressure if you don't recall together. But then again, if Stixxay would have been mid lane, they wouldn't be pressure mid lane. And then if Arrow is trying to push bottom, then Stixxay can just disappear into the bottom side of the river. They knew that there was no vision from P1 when CLG cleaned the vision when they were trying to dive. When we saw the dive on Arrow, they knew that there's no vision because they cleansed it. And then just disappearing simply into the fog of war is so much. It helps you so much to defend objectives. So if you're playing AD carry mid lane and you push away, always try to bring your own pink ward, put pink ward somewhere and hide on that pink ward.
See Stixxay return now to the top side once again. Wants to get this turret
They want to get
badly.
the turret, yeah.
But this time he has the support of Bard and Graves, who are roaming up to the top side as well, helping get some vision.
At this point, it's really good because they set up a very good vision around mid lane and top lane, so they can Arrow cannot push for an Adrian. They can't push mid lane because it's very hard for them to do anything and overextend. But here, Darshan just overextend, didn't respect the split decision, split map right now. The vision you have, you know that the jungler has to be bottom side. He can be in the red side jungle or in the blue side jungle, but he has to be both side. You would see him top side otherwise.
Yeah, big mistake by CLG there. One, because of the split map, and two, a lot of people just generally like to attack the global lane as opposed to fighting somewhere else. As Arrow gets really chunked out mid, he's going to go down.
Gone, yeah.
Oh,
that's 1 for 0. Adrian's next. Jeez, 2 for 0. And okay, Tree Shot Barrage helped a bit, but yeah, it's just the chase down now. It's going to be Stixxay joining in with the team. His team is healthy enough to stay alive. Meteos no ulti. And then he's, okay, maximizing damage up on the Rengar. He knows Rengar can't jump him. Does he respect the leap? Looks like he doesn't have to. And Cinder ult's down, so he actually can feel pretty good about anything except Arcane shifting forward. Because if he does, he dies Nautilus Q.
Yeah, but then again, this is a fail play from CLG when they die. Darshan dies bottom where he is overextending so much. He should never be in that position. And then top lane, Stixxay is alone, and they start fighting mid lane. That's the reason why you put AD carry mid lane at some point of the game, because you always want to fight around him. He's usually, when you play Varus, Jhin, they're not mobile enough to be fast in the team fight. Ezreal is slightly more mobile, but still, you see what happens when they force a team fight mid lane and Stixxay is top side. It takes him such a long time to get to the team fight, and they're just fighting 3v5.
Absolutely. So we reset on the map, and it's still this 2,500 gold lead, almost 3,000 gold lead right here. CLG feeling pretty good. Unlucky for our hero here, Stixxay. He's one of the lower KPs in the team, so it's not. I mean, it's basically it's Xmithie and Aphromoo hard carrying the game. The 8 out of 9 kills on those guys, and they're just opening up all the options, right? And it's up to the rest of the team to follow up, it seems, and they're following up well. I mean, Stixxay, like, do you think there's any like mistakes he's making this game? Do you feel like he's playing the game appropriately? He's in the right place when he can be?
It definitely feels like he's playing pretty well. We talked a little bit about maybe some lane allocation problems or reset timings, but like you were saying, Freeze, that's much more of a team thing. I'm sure if Stixxay wasn't alone, like, I'm going top, I don't care about anything else. That's probably not what the communication was like.
Right now, I would like put Orianna to catch this wave and put Ezreal Bard top mid lane with the jungler, get pressure mid lane, and get vision around either top side or bottom side, depending on what they want, and make sure that these lanes push to us again. So I don't really like this Ezreal going top lane.
And actually, it feels like this lane's going to push away from CLG, maybe, because it's meeting on his side of the river. So CLG's minions in the top lane get reinforcements
He has to go
first.
there top lane now and push it one more. To be able to push it towards them. Because at this point, you're so ahead as a CLG. You have 2 fight rakes that you should always get vision and always make the lanes push. You have to basically, the way you do it is, if you have a 6 minions or 6 minions, you let some of your minions die, mainly the melee minions, and then you fast push the wave as fast as possible. That will make sure that the next wave will be very deep into the enemy map, and that it will push towards you. And that's how you want to manage your side lanes, because that way enemy will have to go to the side lane and out-push the side lane, otherwise they lose farm.
Very aggressive call here by CLG. Basically, they knew that P1 was positioned around the bot side, trying to force the Mountain Drakes, so they are set up around the top side and trying to trade that for Dragons.
Staying onto it, but it's 5,000 HP. I don't think they can actually finish this in time.
Orianna can maybe zone. Oh, nice flash down.
Wow, that was beautiful. Yeah, he's just gone immediately. The ults come through, and they've already picked up 2. And they're still splitting focus, like Darshana, who you're fighting. That's what you're doing, Baron. This feels a little strange, but Mita's getting chunked out. I guess it's going to work for him.
You get to see the weaker Jhin, and he also went for the more scaling build. Maybe a mistake, not able to actually finish off Darshan there, who gets the Baron recall off, TP's back in. And CLG, aggressive call going for the Baron, but it worked out.
And you see, once Jhin ulted, board instantly ulted, and the best ability that Jhin has in long range got immediately cancelled. That's why Bard used to be such a good big into Jhin, and then he couldn't do anything.
Gives them the portal. They are going to go for the dive still. They really want this. A flash Q ignite. That's going to be the kill picked up.
That's
and meanwhile,
a lot of damage.
Stixxay's just pushing the mid lane. So he spent that fight auto attacking the Baron. He rushed an Executioner's Calling, by the way. I want to point that out. Muramana,
That's
Trinity Force, rush Executioners because he's against Soraka, because he's against Rengar who can self-heal. Even a summer heal from Arrow. And he's just like, all right, he is... And there we go, again.
Assassin
when they know it's free, when they know it's a 3v1, he can arcane shift forward and go for the fight. And
Stixxay plays very patiently, but when he sees the window,
all spells forward.
Already goes in.
Yeah.
So that's a very good Ezreal play by him.
Yeah. And I feel like, yeah, I want to really talk about all the decisions that he's been making this game, because, I mean, now it's snowballed to this 23-minute win at this point. But it's I mean, if they can close one out, I think so, too. Now 3 dead. Meteos can't get onto the bot lane marksman at all, so it's just CLG mopping up.
Yeah, huge comeback game here from CLG. Struggled very heavily in game 1, but looks like P1 is basically in their situation from last game. They got kind of destroyed in the jungle support synergy.
And that would very much was Aphromo doing, because he was just roaming everywhere, tracking the jungler and then killing him level 2. So you don't wanna get killed by a support at level 2, you know. You really don't.
Yeah, that tends to not work out too well.
That doesn't work out well, and then he got killed again. And that's just basically from Aphromo CLG punishing the mistake they saw P1 bot lane do, zoning them out of the lane, and then basically transferring that advantage, and just knowing that, hey, we can't get ahead in this lane, let's get ahead everyone else.
And talk a little bit about how annoying red buff can be, because Aphromo did pick that up off of Meteos after he killed him. Did you think that influenced the bot lane at all? I mean, it is a Soraka lane, so you might heal up that extra burn damage a little bit more than other lanes.
The red buff, first red buff, is 1 minute longer, so that's...
Not anymore. They're all 2.5 minutes now.
Oh, really?
That got changed in this season.
Huh, okay. Still, it's a red buff, right? It gives you health regen, that's very annoying, and then auto attacks on board that has a very high range, where there you see the board ultimate instantly, so Jhin can't do anything. Beautiful Ezreal ultimate to zone out, and then all they should have done, they can just flash down and Orion.
And Stixxay is maximizing DPS. He arcane shift queued in to help get the kill, but he's otherwise been focusing his effort on the Baron. He's Wing Smithy, and he's just saying, no, I'm part of the part that's finishing Baron. Those two are zoning off. And Stixxay, again, he has to choose. Do I max DPS Baron to get the objective, or do I go for the fight? And he's only sent a couple skill shots towards the fight. The rest of it, he was part of the DPS focus, and then when they know the fight is free, he can arcane shift forward.
And if you want to be critical of him, he did burn his heal on Graves, who healed up from the smite anyways. A little unnecessary. Yeah, you want to be really critical for no reason, you can do that.
Yep. All right, so 4-0 on a Stixxay. Ruin King, by the way, as your third major item, I think is always correct on Ezreal. It's just it's such a good scaler. The poke, the beyond hit works. Huh?
It got buffed as well, so...
Yeah, it's good.
It was always a core item on Ezreal.
It's getting buffed in 7.5, I know that.
Yeah, it gets you the extra mobility. If someone engages you, you steal their movement speed, say, hey, I'm fast, try to catch me, and you just kite them around, and they can't really kill you. You have the extra lifesteal, and your Q procs the blade passive.
So 12,000 gold lead means it's pretty much free for CLG, but talk to me about how you play the Siege. Do you have to be afraid of Nautilus's ultimate, or can you play up with the Qs?
So I really like CLG right now grouping, even though they have Shen. Usually when you get Baron, or when you're like this strong ahead, if you group as 5, you will always get something. And then there's this famous Baron rotation to get an inhibitor tower.
Yeah, well, the super minis in mid already got the first Nexus turret in the first place, so they're just kind of...
What are they doing?
There's no turret, they can win the game. The Nexus is open. And again, it's about Stixxay. Gets the ult off onto 3 people. He's not going to arcane shift until he's in danger, or there's a free kill to come in. Durable enough to not die to Ryu, I guess he's all right, but he's playing it so far back, he's still afraid of getting jumped on by Ryu's stuns. You can see him playing this really far back.
Now Rengar jumped in, so he immediately jumps. He sees that's how you play teamfights, right?
Yeah.
If you see the enemy assassin jump onto someone else, bam, I can go in.
That's when you go.
And that's what you see. He played behind and safely all the time until he saw that Rengar jumped someone else, and then he immediately knows, I'm no longer in danger of getting one shot or getting really low. I can go in and just carry this fight.
Yeah, and so a deathless game from Stixxay, no Hex Drinker, no Ninja Tabby, against a Syndra and a Rengar. Like, that's not easy to do for your average player. Most of us would probably die 5 times or so against Syndra Rengar. Mark points to himself.
Yeah.
I'd have 15. And so it's why I'm always trying to refocus on but Stixxay's doing exactly this. And in the last team fight, if we get to watch it again, I'd love that. He almost never arcane shifts forward until there's like a shockwave pulling someone in. And okay, I guess I'll kill the Nautilus here.
Yeah, he did the one mistake of getting all in by Syndra ultimate.
Yeah,
but
he tanked
survived
that
that one. But then he played very well. He was kiting with the Q. He was waiting till Rengar jumps. He was hiding behind his teammates because the Rengar ultimate, someone has to tank it because of the crit from the Rengar ultimate. And then when he saw the jump, he just jumped in immediately and that tons of damage, kills everyone.
And to be fair, a little to Stixxay in that last fight, CLG's formation got really kind of broken up because they overextended on Zig trying to kill him, and then Afro ulted, and then they wanted to get the people in the Bard ultimate after they came out of it, but that opens up Syndra on the side to kind of aggress onto him. So
half of the team wanted to finish, half of the teams wanted to keep it safe,
fight
just
them.
finish.
If they're far enough ahead, it doesn't matter, but it's not really Stixxay's fault. The fact that Syndra could walk into alt range against him, you should have your front line doing a little more.
Suddenly no front line. It's like, well, Syndra can flash army, so what do you want me to do? Well, it is a game to win by CLG, tied up 1-1. Let's now send it over to your analyst desks. They're going to break down that game overall.
And now we head to a game 3, but much cleaner from CLG. And Smithy looked much more comfortable. Awesome to see that he can just shake off that first game performance.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, he almost always looks good on Graves, on the champions that he's good at. And we talked about it so much in the first game. Like, Smithy is a different player when he is comfortable, right? And when he is playing a champion that he is strong on, he always looked good on Kindred. He's always looked good on Graves, kind of the AD type junglers, marksman junglers. And it really did show this game.
And we saw in the team comps as well, they were even okay to say, hey, you know what? No Rengar this time. We'll even first pick Shen. You guys can have Rengar. And it seemed to get under the skin of P1 as well. Once he fell behind, Meteos couldn't have the same impact he had on Olaf. So CLG used that to their advantage.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, Meteos, almost it feels like he fell into the trap that CLG has been falling into. So you could just replay the last analyst segment, but just replace CLG with P1, right?
Tweak it just a little bit.
Change the names a little bit. But I mean, Meteos at the same time, if he's not playing a lot, I do think that Rengar is a pretty different champion. And Meteos has said he's not playing as much as he used to. He may not be as practiced on some of the meta champions. Things like Olaf, he's been playing for a long time, some of his really comfortable picks. Yeah. But especially since Rengar has recently been nerfed, I think if you're not very good at it, it's not actually better than the other junglers.
And we'll show our first replay coming in here, a CLG fight in the mid lane, 3-for-1. These got a little scrappy, but it did show P1 kind of overstaying and thinking they can get the better of these situations.
Yeah, and I mean, at this point, they were already quite a bit behind. And the nice thing about that Bard ult from Aphromoo is that it's actually zoning 2 people off of Arrow, so they can push forward and actually get onto Arrow and be able to take him down very, very quickly. And, I think a lot of credit has to go to Darshan this game, too, because Darshan is someone who it felt like he was always there. Basically, he's always there at the right time with the Shen ultimates, making the right roams down and stuff, and he did work very well with the team.
Absolutely. Him and Afro having some sweet plays towards the end of the game. Another replay at 21 minutes in where CLG took the Baron fight, and we were a little hesitant on this one because this is when you say, just use your power to fight, not bait yourself into a loss.
I mean, this is 21 minutes into the game. This is some of the greediest stuff I've ever seen. It works out for them. It's like, sweet, you're going for a 21-minute Baron, you're going to peel and fight. Instead, CLG's like, nah, let's just get the Baron and get the kills at the same time. And it was some really nice play. A lot of it's because of how well Hui did in this fight. The initial shockwave chunking people out. Aphromoo Bard ulting the Jhin ultimate, stopping that. And then Hui and Smithy landing that combo, smashing them with the AoE after Darshan came with the wall on. So this was very well played from CLG. And although it was super greedy, it was actually really well executed, so they could get away with it. And CLG just looks so much better when they're playing the champions that they're comfortable on. I mean, Aphromoo on a playmaker, he's playing Bard.
First blood and juggle.
Exactly. I mean, it's like, not a lot of people are playing a champion like Bard, but who cares? It's good for him, so it's a good pick.
And then we got the next kill of that game going over to Graves, or for Smithy on Graves in the bot lane, which he continued to play good on. Player of the game going to him for that honor as we're really picking it up and kind of righting the ship for the first game performance and really helping out the team.
Yeah, I mean, great kill on the bot side. He's able to get ahead, and it just looked like a reversal of last game. Smithy was really able to take over. He was very effective. He was proactive. It felt like he had a plan for what he was doing the whole way through, and Meteos felt a little bit lost. It really is just a reversal, of game 1. Graves showing that it's a big pick for Smithy.
Yeah.
P1 banned it out in game 1.
That's what
likely
I was
going to ban it out in game 3, and CLG is going to have to show us something different.
How do you look at what happens to the mid lane now? Do you go after what Ryu does with anything? He's been double Syndra, which is somewhat carrying the fights, but then he's got a big champion pool anyway.
Yeah, see, that's the thing to me is Huhi and Ryu are both guys who can play so many different things. It's not worth throwing bans at them unless it's a specific bad matchup. Sure, if I want to play Ryze and I don't want to play any Cassio, then great, ban out Cassio. Something like that makes sense to me. But when you're just trying to target ban a specific player, those guys play too many champions.
And I believe looking at that player of the game, Smithy's first one coming in on that Graves to do so well for the team. So looking for him to do more coming to this next game. There's still the Kazakhs and what up there for the junglers, but we do see him reflecting back onto that. So maybe it's something P1 can look at. Looking at the top lane, Darshan has been getting this first pick Shen quite a bit. He did falter back, not falter back, he did go back to some carries we saw in the last few weeks, but then back to the tanks because it seems that split push works for CLG so well.
It really does, and I think that Darshan, for a tank, Shen makes a lot more sense than even like the Maokai, even though he has been just playing well, period, in my opinion. I think Shen is really nice because he likes to take his advantages and give it to the rest of his team to get them ahead. Shen does that very well. So he was bullying out lane. He ends up a little bit down in farm, but he's the one showing up to the fight, getting the rest of his team ahead, making plays with the taunt flashes. So Shen works well for the team, and I also think it's the highest priority top laner on this patch with nerfs to, with nerfs to Maokai and some of the other champions getting knocked down a bit. I think Shen works very well.
We've been seeing the Shen Nautilus. That's what Zig is. It's 2 matches of that now. We'll see if we get a 3rd rematch of that top lane battle. So with CLG able to up the series, we will see if Phoenix 1 can bounce back in Game 3. Don't go anywhere. The match concludes after the break.
Trevor, go. Hit Nautilus, hit Nautilus.
No. Sun.
I'm watching. I have ulti still.
I got their backline.
Okay.
Oh, I got not.
Didn't ult to me.
I have shield for
Kill.
Watch Syndra, watch
Syndra
Syndra.
has nothing. You guys can end. If he doesn't do anything. Bring your flash.
I healed.
Ulti J.
Got him.
Nice.
Watch in.
Jin.
End.
Don't let me die, was.
Yeah, end.
Alright, we got it.
Good shit.
Nice.
Welcome back everyone to the deciding game in the series between Phoenix 1 and Counter Logic Gaming. Arrow and P1 won game 1, Stixxay and CLG won game 2. In really both these cases, they just rode along with the team. They weren't the big playmakers, to be fair, so it's just been them sort of cleaning up in fights, being pretty safe, and making the lane assignments. And so we watched Arrow in game 1, we watched Stixxay in game 2, and now to not decide the series ourselves, we're going to wait until Champ Select to figure out who we actually want to follow to see basically on Freeze's whim who we think is more important in that game.
It's more exciting.
It is more exciting. And we're also going to try to probably swap back and forth between the game. Just to kind of keep things a little bit more fresh. We've talked about the players, and so we'll try to stay dynamic with the game about what the important players are and following those two marksmen.
Yeah, and I think it's, to be fair, that's kind of the situation of the meta right now for AD carries. It's a lot of follow-up on your team or just starting, and then you're usually not the one going crazy with some kind of auto-attack reset or anything like that.
Yeah, you're not the flashy player anymore like you used to be before. It's more about how well you can play around being safe and just patient with your team, and how well you enable your teammates or your support to roam.
Yep, so we're going to be seeing that pretty soon. Champ Select has begun once again. So here we go, the third and final game. Aframu's Thresh still not available.
Will Bart get banned?
I don't know. I mean, I think maybe you can just back off the Soraka pick. It wasn't a huge factor for CLG in game 1, and then game 2. Once again, not a big factor for Phoenix 1. So maybe a little over-prioritized over the course of this series.
Yeah, maybe so. We'll wait to see. Olaf still banned away from Meteos. Yeah, and this is always what I like to see in these series, is just banning champions that you can see this guy's good at. We don't really want to play it. We're fine trading the meta junglers and whatnot back and forth.
Maza again. Like those playmaking supports, you know? You don't want Aframu to do what he did on Bard. You don't want him to roam around, get kills, get vision, get the mid priority like he can do on Mazahar, Bard, and Thresh.
And it's interesting to see that they're not really targeting the AD carries anymore. We saw Varus banned both games. It could still come in for CLG here, but then we also saw the Ashe last game as well for Phoenix 1. So maybe they're going to slow down with their AD carry bans and focus more on the front.
Yeah, it didn't prove efficient the last game when they banned Ashe and Varus and picked Jhin, and then they just picked still Azrael and pushed him in. It's more like both games we saw, it's more about who pushes and who has the bot lane priority to roam. It wasn't really who has Varus or who has Jhin at this point of the game.
As we do see the Varus ban come in, not too much of a surprise, considered one of the strongest champions on the patch. So Phoenix 1 goes
again.
Okay. Yep. Once again, it's just Ashe, this champion will always push, right?
Yep.
No matter what support you pick it with, the level 1 priority from Ashe is just so strong.
Yeah, volley hits 4, hit them for 80 damage. It's like, you got lane priority.
Yeah, volley and auto attack is just such a good trade, and there are not many AD carries that can outpush that or match that.
And I think you saw also game 1 how good Arrow was at starting stuff off for his team. We said he was 5 for 6 in arrows, I believe, of his ultimate arrows, not his name. That would have made sense.
I got you.
But I think like just having that kind of consistent engage out of Ashe is why it is so high priority for them instead of the Jhin or something, which is good for starting fights off, but it's not quite as explosive.
Actually, we're seeing Elise as the queen of the jungle with literally 1 jungle ban.
Yeah.
They said Elise is the most important, and they hop off.
Open, yeah.
Yeah, they also hop off the Jhin that they played in the previous in game 1 and go for the Ezreal anyway instead.
Yeah, they don't want to get baited into the Jhin, because then again they would see what happened in the first game when Ashe was just pushing. Now they're trying to match it with a strong level 1 AD carry as well. I like this a lot, because if you look at Ashe and Ezreal is one of the strongest level 1 AD carries as is Ashe, and it's all about right now. I would even see a priority on supports like Karma. So you get the extra edge for pushing the lane, because right now it's like Ashe is a bit favored in the level 1 push, but Ezreal is very close to it.
All right, we'll see if so it's going to be about how they can play the level 1 then.
Yeah, and then who will push out. You normally go straight to bottom and you stay in your bush next to the tower, and then who can push the enemy bot lane out of their bush wins the lane, basically, wins the level 1. And there is the priority on support, where they just pick it early support so they know that they can push out level 1. And that's really good, because even though you will hit Ezreal Qs on Ashe, then Nami will just heal through it and they will push you off the level 1 priority, and that means they will be pushing the lane already.
Whereas banned last game by CLG, it's basically Adrian's best champion. He plays it all the time, even in situations other teams might not pick it. You see Adrian grabbing the Nami, so
wow.
CLG goes Braum, and that is basically conceding.
Yeah, that is basically saying that, okay, we don't want to fight you. You will push us. We agree. You will push us. We will gank you, right? They can try to gank this lane with Braum. It's a very easy gank. But once again, they picked Ashe Nami. You already see that we talked about
blink,
the level
no dashes.
There's basically you can win level 1. So they take the different approach and they say, okay, you have 2 0 mobility champions.
Yep.
You're easily gankable, and they have Elise.
So I want to tunnel on this. I'm going to ignore the rest of champ select because I think we've all been in solo queue games where you're like, man, they're outlaning us, and then the freaking jungler can't bot, and we lost anyway. Like I want to break down like, okay, how does P1 deal with the fact that Xmithie's on Elise, a great early jungler, and how does CLG deal with the fact that they've got Elise, a great early game jungler, but an otherwise losing lane?
So P1 still has the priority, I would say, because if you have Ashe Nami, you can push. Until level 3, you shouldn't get ganked by a jungler unless you get cheese level 2 gank. So what they should do is they will push the 2 first waves. They will keep their wards because they don't have to usually use a ward in the lane bush for lane dominance, because then you see the support all the time and you can trade with him. But this time they have such a strong lane compared to Ezreal Braum that they can just keep their wards. They don't have to ward the side bushes, and then after pushing 2 waves, they will go in a river and they will go ward basically against Elise, and they can use both trinkets because they will have both trinkets to ward, and that will save them for the time from level 3, level 4. But then when it dies, level 5, then you're in trouble. They can gank you again.
And even with the 2 wards that you're going to put down, with the addition of blast cones and things like that, if CLG does a good job tracking where those wards went down, you can still path around it. And it's
going to like tri-brush and blast cone over the wall.
Yeah, you can do things like that. You can head straight through river if they're deep on camps. You just have to be very aware of where they put these wards. And it becomes actually a really interesting mind game where Phoenix One will have priority. They can dip out of the fog of war basically, and you sometimes put shallow wards but stay out of vision longer to make them think you went for deeper wards and things like that. And Counter Logic Game is going to be calling those and trying to path Elise down there, assuming they are trying to force these bot lanes.
Yeah, I forgot to tell that in this specific matchup, like they're so much stronger that they should just do a very deep wards, right? They shouldn't do the
ward on the camp.
Yeah, they should do the near the camps the ward, because they can afford to do that. But then again, even if you ward the camps, Elise is such good ganking jungler with Braum that he can come through lane, and then Braum flashes exhaust, guaranteeing it. That basically guarantees that you will get hit by the Q. Because if you get flashed exhaust by Braum, you're slow. Most of the players will start panicking. They will flash as well, and then you know exactly where he is. He's still slowed from the exhaust, and then you Braum Q, and you triple flash and kill him.
Yeah, and you also have the option to use the Braum W to jump onto a creep. So Phoenix One, both Arrow and Adrian are going to have to be worried about where they're positioning in lane. If there's a creep nearby and it's at a time where you might be gankable, you don't want to end up right next to a creep, because then you just get that flash auto Q exhaust or something like that.
And this is a big irony, honestly, from this game, because usually we see P1 bot lane play safe and just trying to survive the lane, and now they have such a strong level 1 and such a strong bot lane, and then you see CLG, who always plays aggressive combos bot lane, playing a very passive. They just switch things.
Yeah, and that's funny. Like as P1, are you allowed to say screw it, play under a turret? They have Elise. Like, are you allowed to play the matchup that way, or like, do you let Braum get away with a weak laning phase and say, yeah, we'll just give you control, or is that not acceptable?
You should push the first 2 waves as fast as possible, then ward, and then you should play the lane that you build up. You let them push towards you slightly, and then you zone them with Ashe W and Nami, and you start building a huge wave. And the bigger the wave is, the more chance is that you will deny Ezreal more CS. That's A, and B, that Elise cannot gank you, because if there is a big minion wave stacking towards you, you don't want to gank.
Right, yeah.
They can turn on you and they can kill you, or even if you would gank and get a kill, it's still not worth, because you would miss all the CS.
So my thought is, sorry, I'm going to interrupt you real quick. My thought is that we're probably going to watch then from Arrow's POV, because their fog of war means more because they're tracking the Elise.
Yeah, they should. We should look how they ward, because that's going to be very important.
Yeah, and I want to keep hitting on this warding point, because the thing about freezing the wave back when you do that is you're no longer able to really get deep wards, because if you try and go at that point, you'll get cut off by the enemy team. So there's always these kind of trade-offs where you push, you get a lot of deep vision, you deny the enemy team, you get turret chip damage. What are you giving up? The opportunity for the enemy team to gank you. You play back a lot further, you're giving up vision and some of those other advantages. So
you have to play very well around your timings, because it depends. The drinking board stays alive depending on your level. It scales with your level. So you have to, if you push the two first waves, and then you have 1 minute of your ward basically. So you have 1 minute where you can let them slightly, let's say 20 seconds you will let them push, and 40 seconds you will build up a big wave. So when your ward dies, then you have a big wave and you cannot get ganked. And at that point, you should already be at 5 minute mark where you have 44 CS if you're very perfect at last hitting, and that means BS sword for Ashe. And that's the base you are looking for. You wanna deny as Ezreal, you wanna base on tier. If you deny the tier and you keep the Ezreal until the BS sword, then you're good to go, because then when you reset, you have a BS sword, he has a tier, and a call.
A long sword or a call or something, right?
And that basically means you have so much power to win the lane. And that's what, as Ashe, you should be striking to play versus Ezreal, you should be denying that one.
Okay, and so, sorry, just to kind of eclipse the point, I guess, is like you're playing to have the lane last long enough that you can do a 1400 gold recall. You're like trying to keep him in lane against you. If you have priority, he can't recall first. Lose a full wave if he does it, and have the priority that like you have to have pressure last long enough that at the 5:30, 6-minute recall, 1400 gold into the base we go.
And I know, obviously we talk more about bot lane, but there's two other really important points for P1 to consider. One is Aurelion Sol can get on the map and start roaming very, very early, and we've seen Stixxay do that before, or Huhi, excuse me. So P1 also needs to keep those other factors in mind. It's not just all about the Elise.
Yeah, you can see in the Fog of War, they put 2 pings down on the river saying, hey, by the way, we can't see Aurelion Sol. Ryu can't match, he's clearing a wave. Okay, he went topside.
And this was very interesting approach from P1 bot lane. They know that they have such a strong bot lane. You see how well they are trading. This trade is so perfect for them because once again, they have sustain from Name. If you trade even badly with Name, you are still winning the trade. And level 1, instead of pushing the lane instantly, they were helping their jungler. They were so confident in their level 1 ability to push that they were securing the jungler.
Yeah, and Adrian's doing a great job getting the double bounces. That's 2 Ws in a row. That it can be difficult to do that.
Target the ranged enemy champion, stay in range, it'll bounce to the melee enemy champion. You get all 3 hits that way. Level 2 did go to CLG first, slightly.
Level 2 E on Ashe, that's a very good thing you should be always doing. Level 2 E on Ashe basically gives you a free vision of where the jungler is. If you see what Camps is doing, you can plan his route. For example, if he starts bottom side, you know he will have to go top side. So always get level 2 E on Ashe, because if you get Q, it doesn't give you anything, like 6 more damage. That's really nothing in the lane.
And Arrow aimed it to go over the blue buff and over the wolves, and saw that both camps seemed to still be up at that time. So they said, okay, Smith is going to be bot side soon. He started top. He's probably around blue. Expect at least bot side. And he's there.
Yeah, it looks like Adrian will probably be able to get out here. Does get stunned up, but...
and, I mean, honestly, Adrian was late, I feel like. 3 minute 30 is a very late gank timing. 3 minutes is like the latest you get to put a ward down.
Yeah, he should have went to ward instantly when the E saw the camps. He should have already known that Elise will be pathing bot line, that she has the camp bot side. I have to go ward instantly. And he hesitated. He waited for 15 seconds for no reason, and then Elise was already there for the gank.
And you can see that he was scared at that point, because he was very hesitant walking up to that tri-bush. He was like, uh-oh, I think we might have waited a little too long, and they get punished.
But then again, it was very well communicated from CLG bot lane, because they were like, hey, this bot lane hasn't warded yet, and they have to ward because they're scared of you. So if you go there, we will flash ulta or flash Q them, and we will try to kill them. But Adrian was fast enough with his reaction and flashed the cocoon.
Yeah, I think the cocoon missed and he flashed him anyway or something close to that, but you're right. Like, not getting cocooned. I think he was dead if cocoon lands because he get the Braum stun layered off. But again, P1, okay, flashless Nami is, I guess, a bit of a risk, but you can see, yeah, he's like, he's trying to bait out the cocoon. And then, he just missed flash cocoon. Adrian walked to the right.
He missed it. Missed it. If he hit that, he was dead.
Yeah, Adrian flashed late. Like, if he just aimed correctly, that was actually a stun landing.
And he should have aimed more towards the wall, because you can dodge. If you're next to a wall and you're aiming your skill shots, you should always aim like a bit to more left to the instead of to the wall or on top of the champion. You should aim a bit to the left, because he can't dodge anywhere else and it will still hit him. So that was a mistake from Xmidi. But this lane, for me, is very surprising. I kind of expected they would be playing so safe with P1 bot lane, but they're playing way too safe, right? They from the level 1, they weren't pushing, they weren't doing the strategy I would be doing, or as I mentioned, I would be pushing the 2 waves, warding, and then slow pushing the wave again. They're instead letting the Ezreal farm, which I don't really like. I think that's a big issue from P1 bot lane, not knowing the matchup, not being comfortable surviving ganks, and not knowing how to ward properly to survive those ganks.
I think it'd be the kind of thing where they get a little surprised by that initial like Elise mistake and they lose their heal. Maybe they think, you know, well, let's not fight anymore. We're down a combat summoner. And we talk about how within their respective roles in their teams, Arrow doesn't necessarily need to crush the lane phase.
They know that if they go even or slightly ahead, they will be in the right spot and they will be in comfortable spot. And that's a lot of LCS teams do that. A lot of LCS players go for this comfortable spot. But Stixxay, once again, he's winning this lane with such a bad matchup.
I want to point out how Arrow played this, by the way. This is a bot lane that's going to freeze in front of his turret.
That's very good.
Right, the minion wave is like 1.5x. If it's equal size, this will push back towards CLG because they'll get reinforcements first. But this is like, there's like 3 or 4 more minions here, so it's going to kill CLG, or P1's wave first, and it's going to reinforce in time, and it's just going to stay in front of P1's turret, and CLG loses a full minion wave doing this.
And then they have to be scared of jungler as Ezreal Braum, because then in this lane...
Because they're stuck by the turret, yeah.
Basically, this is called like locking the wave, where you just lock the wave in front of your turret and just keep it there, and that puts a lot of pressure on the enemy AD. But then again, it's Ezreal, and in this position, if you play Ezreal and you get the tier, all you have to do, you should always Q last hit. You should never go for auto attacks.
And you saw Arrow stand in front of that caster, willingly tank 200 damage and say, I'm denying 17 gold from you.
And just to talk about locking the wave, generally the number you want to hit is 3 more. You want basically 3 caster creeps alive to keep the freeze there. So Arrow was clearing the minions relatively quickly when there was a fair amount stacked up. As soon as he got it to around 3, he stops pushing, he starts body blocking the creeps, stuff like that.
But yeah, the body block versus Ezreal, if you have a sustain or if you have a refillable potion, it's very good to block the minions, because at this point, if you have Ezreal with only tier, you have to last it with Q. If you go for auto attacks, they will only trade you and they will win the trade. And Ashe and Nami, they're basically looking for all-in right now on the Ezreal. Not really all-in, but they can like...
Now nicely done though by P1. Meteos gets the kill off, and that's going to feel good for Phoenix 1 to say, hey, you know what? We played defensively, but mid lane's winning for us anyway.
This is so good. This is so good what Arrow is doing. He's slow pushing a big wave bottom, meaning that he has a big wave bottom to deny bot lane, and he's purposely trading badly with Stixxay because he knows, hey, we killed your mid laner. Our jungler will go into your jungle because we know that we have man advantage, and we will deny this entire wave because you are half HP because I traded with you.
And it's a triple stacked wave that they're going to miss under the turret. Meteos is fine here.
Yeah, this is a mistake. This is a very big mistake from Meteos. They should, if you play versus a TP top laner and you want to do this, you have to sync it together to kill him before the TP lands. He was too reckless. He just started doing it before the team did it, and that means that Stixxay will get all this CS. But they was so good. This was such
almost amazing.
Yeah, it was such a good trade from Arrow when he just seeing the player purposely take bad trades to know that he knows this is what we will do. Even if I take bad trade, it's gonna be good for me because we will dive you.
Right. I'll take 300 damage. You take 200 damage. Well, now you're gonna die to a Rengar.
Yeah.
Yeah, overall, super smart, and the timing was a little fortunate for P1, that right when they started building that wave was about the same time they killed the mid laner and get control of the bot jungle. So, you know, that was lucky, but then you see P1, not lucky, but fortunate.
They could have still pulled it out, but Meteos a bit,
you know,
overdid it there. If he waited for the arrow, which Arrow should start with his arrow.
Yeah. It's so annoying to say that, right?
Yeah, then it would be perfect because they would just kill one of them and then disengage, and then Ezreal loses the entire wave.
And it's one of the situations, too, where it's actually an easier dive to pull off than it can be if you're against a tank or something like that. A Jace TPing in doesn't really have defensive tools to lock you down and stop you from DPSing the way something like a Nautilus or Maokai can have at 6. And that's one of the things that I think some teams don't talk enough about is how the TPs are going to influence the dive. If, you know, Rumble and Jace both join, what's a Jace really going to do to stop your dive from going other than try and kill you? As we see Darshan go down.
All right, well, it's a game where P1 gets to do whatever they want at this point. I mean, they're letting their jungler and you know, mid-laner roam everything.
For the past minute, we saw Arrow just desperately trying to push ASAP because he realized that the enemy Ezreal recall. And once again, there is this P1 does whatever they want at this point.
Adrian gets to roam out of the lane, he can be part of the ganks. And
there was an arrow from Arrow.
Yeah, if you want to swap to CLG's vision, I'm happy to do that. It's up to you, whatever you feel like you want to talk about. Because Arrow right now is just like tossing cross map ultis and just saying, you know what, if you guys want to do things, I'll be over here.
Yeah, I'll finish on the Arrow point. Is that once you realize that the enemy AD carry or the enemy bot lane reset, you have 2 options to do. You either freeze the lane and reset immediately as well, which we saw the first
right, you lock it in front of your turret and you match the recall right away.
And then he recalled, which is a very good case. If you can do it, if you have the good amount of minions to do that, you need basically a 3 range minions and 1 melee, and then next coming wave to do that, to lock that lane. And if you don't have this, then you have to push immediately, and then Arrow was trying to push ASAP to just recall.
Another reason that the push there is a good option is because your team is forcing plays on the top side of the map that CLG wants to react to, and if you push in the bot wave and Ezreal doesn't come bottom and he instead reacts to the mid play, you just get free turret damage. So forcing the Ezreal down bottom to not cover the extended play that was happening mid is one of the advantages of pushing. And that's why you see less freezes in general in competitive play right now, is because people like forcing that kind of action.
Okay, so Freeze, the question to you, do you want to swap to Stixxay's vision or do we want to keep on Arrow? Stixxay is behind,
At this point, Arrow doesn't really have to do much, so I think we should swap to Stixxay vision, and I will talk about what he has to do in order to get his team back to this lane.
All right, great. We'll have that up in a second. Pretty much, there we go. All right, it's time to watch Stixxay. He's actually swapping out of the lane.
Yes, he's doing exactly what I was
Great, let's go, let's hear this.
At this point, when we saw what P1 tried to do. They tried to dive them, and they should have been able to pull out the dive. So at that point, you have to swap. You have to realize that they will do that again, and you have to swap and go for the gank. And this is perfect from CLG. This is literally what they had to do. Swap to top lane. P1 will get the first turret, but if you stay there, you will get Doven and die.
Right. You're gonna, if you keep landing, you lose first turret anyway. So it's like that's gonna happen regardless. But in this case, they get to kill a ring or a rumble, and they get to get pressure on the top turret.
And P1 had TP advantage in this situation. So if CLG elected to go bottom there, it's not even just that you're down pressure in a lot of these lanes. It's that dive is almost 100%
Yeah, it's
guaranteed.
100 guaranteed, and then it generally works even if you would have an even TP. If you press tab and your team is behind, you know they will gank bot lane.
Yeah.
So you want to run away from that lane. It might be quite tricky. They shouldn't be able to get the second tier turret. That's a mistake from P1. They should be just getting a dragon at this point. But then, once again, it's still really good. They got the first turret, but then again, CLG did exactly what they needed to get back in the lane, even though P1 is ahead in the tempo.
And would you say, continuing on with this kind of avoiding them to swap turrets like they just did there, is this something you want to keep doing? So wherever Arrow starts showing Stixxay wants to avoid, or are you fine slowly falling back into the actual kind of lane matchup now that the TPs are more equaled and you also got some global gold for your turret?
Yeah, right now I want to do what Stixxay is doing again. He's playing very well. He wants to avoid being near the first tier turrets because, once again, they have such a good dive. They have Rumble TP, they will have mid priority with Rengar, and they will jump them. So he's very afraid of getting dove, and there he goes. He's getting ganked.
Now for this, well, he can blank some of the CC. Thankfully, Stixxay dodged that arrow, but this is what happens. I mean, unfortunately for CLG, right? They opted out of this lane, and they gave all the control away to P1. So P1 had all the wards. They know it's completely dark from CLG, and they just set the trap up for the wave.
That was slightly a mistake from Afremu, because Stixxay, he played well. He's an Ezreal. He can overextend slightly. He has an Arcane Shift. He has a Summoners to get away from it, and they didn't see the enemy on the map. So if you don't ever see the bot lane, you know, for a long period of time, you know there's something happening.
That's a really nice play right there in the mid lane, though. Great stun from Huhi. Just sets up the whole thing.
That can be a little risky to go for P1, or CLG, given the fact that P1 just ganked your bot lane and got a kill, and we're still kind of jumped and centered around the bot side. But they had enough vision, and we're pretty sure that P1 was on Dragon. And so I actually like that CLG goes for that kind of play. I think when you're behind, it can be easy to psych yourself out of places. Oh, they have control, but it's really hard to come back in a game when you're not doing things.
This is very curious. He's coming mid lane, Stixxay, which I think is a mistake because he has to reset his bottom side.
It's slow pushing towards P1.
It's slow pushing towards the enemy, so he's basically losing farm. For some reason, he went to mid lane to maybe try to siege the tower because Ryu was dead. But all he really needed to do is push the bot lane ASAP.
One more wave and it's fine.
So it pushes back to him. And that way, he won't lose CS and Arrow will be losing CS. This way, you can see on the minimap that so many red dots that they're slow pushing towards the enemy and he's losing farm. They sent Arrow in solo because, well, I wouldn't want to be in side lane after I died.
Doesn't look like anyone wants to be there.
Yeah.
And they've got some time to wait for it again. Now the push in towards the mid lane, and Ezreal is somewhat around, but it's mostly Huhi doing the heavy lifting here. Looks like nothing for Stixxay to really land. I want to point out, you're talking about the lane control. I really kind of want to illustrate something, that these pros often have like 9 or 10 CS per minute, which almost no one gets in solo queue outside a challenger. And it's not that some of it is they're mechanically better at last hitting, but a lot of it is things like this with the lane pressure, where you don't want to give away 3 waves in a row doing nothing.
Yeah. you have to maximize your farm as an ADC, obviously, because you don't really have to do much else other than link control and siege towers. But then I, again, really like this adaptation. I think CLG is playing very smart. They were behind 3K or 2.5K, now they're behind only 1.7, and that's given mainly because of the good rotations from CLG bot lane. They put CLG bot lane mid lane, where mid lane is the safest, basically the safest lane for them, so they can get jumped by Rengar or Dovin by Rumble.
Whoa, super aggressive.
Ooh, Rumble.
That was beautiful. That was really great. He was there.
Yeah, that was a really nice play by CLG. The bot wave that we were talking about that CLG had never actually managed to push out. Well, if you never actually push it out and you let it slowly go to P1 side, eventually it becomes kind of that slow push anyway. So
yeah,
ideally they would have had someone farming and pushing it, but given that it was slow pushing, they make a good decision to go mid and force around this turret.
P1 bot lane is playing very, very disrespectfully. This is a big mistake from P1 bot lane. They should have just played safe because they knew that Orianna, it should have been called. Usually when your mid laner or someone like jungler shows somewhere, he has to say, okay, I'm cleansing this big wave bot lane, you have to play safe. And look how aggressively Arrow plays. This is, I don't know what is he doing. He's known for playing safe, he's known for not dying, he's known for being very consistent, and then he oversteps, makes CLG get this free kill and free tower when they shouldn't be able to do it.
And of course, Adrian shouldn't be here either at all. There's no reason for him to.
And Adrian does the same mistake, tries to save the tower that is already lost.
Yeah, and I think
it just gets cocooned for no reason.
I think this is definitely one of the few times you can say that Arrow made like a really big mistake because
yeah,
you
very
can see
unexpected from Arrow.
Ori was running bottom to go catch that big wave that was coming in, and that's one of those times we talk about how important it is to be able to play patient and play safe. You're stronger than the Ezreal. You think, okay, I can trade onto him. I have my Nami here, but you're not really considering where the rest of the map might be opened up.
Yeah, AD carry turn into then you have basically a role that you have to consider everything that's a possibility, and you have to play well around your teammates, and you have to know where to play passive, where to play aggressively. And this was the prime example of Arrow just overstepping. I'm still like very shocked because I just didn't expect Arrow to do such a big mistake.
Right.
That was a very like for you guys it might seem like it's a nothing, but for me this is really huge. It just made CLG get back in the game. They're now on
500 gold.
Yeah,
they're
500, but the tempo has just changed so much, and then, yeah.
So let's again refocus the conversation. I mean, you're right. Big mistake out of Arrow. Huge deal right here. So Stixxay, what's your job? You're in a mid game where there's one outer turret to kill. Right, the map is pretty opened up. You don't have a laning phase anymore. So how do you play laning phase when you need to buy a teammate?
Okay, let's get back to Stixxay. When you get put as an ADC mid lane, all you really have to do is push ASAP, push as fast as you can, and then group with your team. Your team will most likely decide if they want to play bot side or top side, and your role is to just safely push, not die, and then group with your team. You have to disappear in the vision. You see what he's doing. He's always coming to his team. He's always fighting.
Hey, good follow-up here. I like how he doesn't bother with the wave. It's important to know when's the right time to go for the wave and when not to. There you saw there were a couple creeps, doesn't follow after them, goes to his team who's about to start this fight.
And yeah, he was the damage that helped make sure that the Ashe and the Rengar died. Arcane shifted in, landed the ulti. It was a good turnaround by Zig. But he can just jump the wall and stay safe. And again, he's just going to try to mark. He's just going to try to queue over the wall. But, you know,
Tifa 2, not that bad anymore. But then we just saw the Ezreal strength again. Ezreal is able to be 1v2 versus Ashe Name, pushing, contesting the way with his Qs from a very big distance, and then meanwhile Braum is getting vision in the river, cleaning pink wards, and then once anything starts to happen, Stixxay is immediately on follow-up. He doesn't care about 3 minions. It doesn't matter if you get this 60 gold from range creep, you need to be with your team and you need to be following up. And you see Afram instantly Qs and Stixxay is right away there.
And I think this is one of the things that Ezreal can do that a lot of other AD carries in the meta can't, is that he can play a lot more aggressive. And sure, you can sit in the back of team fights and shoot Qs, but you can also position a lot more aggressively. Towards the tail end of this fight, Stixxay kind of gets cut off here as the Rumble ultimate comes in to snipe out Aframu, and he's caught up here. And this is a situation that you would never want to be in as another AD carry. That's fine to do as Ezreal. And you can chase through fights a little more aggressively than you would on any other carry. And you see there, just Arcane shift out over the wall when you get a little cut out.
It's the only meta champion that has a jump, unless Caitlyn, but Caitlyn is not really meta.
You're right, yeah, she's maybe like the number 4 or 5 bot laner right now, and we don't see pretty much any Trist.
Right, this is really good again. They group up with Ezreal. Ezreal, if you're mid lane here and there's a good Drake you want to contest, you can call your teammates to group mid lane. You can ping your top laner to push up top lane and come with you mid lane, and that way you get extra man advantage. and then he can just go towards the dragon and get the dragon. And that's a very good play from CLG here. And Stixxay he can just play so aggressively right now. He has the core power spikes. You should always mention where you have your power spikes, and that's Trinity Force, finish the Hair, and Mana Immune for Ezreal at this point.
Yep. 656 mana right now. He's almost Muramana.
Yeah, you're twice as strong as Ashe.
Yep.
There he goes.
2 items, big power spike, jumps forward, right, gets to Arcane Shift in, land the Q and everything else. And so, yeah, he's power spiked. He can kind of be part of these fights super easily. And looks like he's going to roam right back down to this Drake as you were talking about before. And
stays with the team again, doesn't go for the mid wave. There's no need for the mid wave. And try to pull out the Drake, get it.
W's the team, and they're actually going to wait out the Rengar. They don't want to take this fight right now, and
they're playing very safe. I like it. They should get back to mid lane with Ezreal. Ezreal should just get the mid priority again, push it out, and then they should go all together towards mid lane. But it's important for Ezreal to go mid lane right now, because if he doesn't, P1 will just push the wave and then get the Drake. It's a lot about the lane control right now. And they're slightly okay. They're trying to fight. They're saying, okay, we don't care about the wave that we are losing under a second tier mid tower. It's more important for us to go to team fight and how to defend the Drake, because they were slow again with Ezreal to rotating mid lane. And this looks like a Drake for P1. Are 50-50.
Did he smite it away? Smithy gets it. Meteos is chunked out, and pretty much everything CLG wanted. They did lose a wave of minions. That died to the turret, but otherwise they have control over mid and they can go right back down.
Yeah, that was actually a really interesting situation as they re-engage.
He flashes as well. He's going to take a lot of damage from that, actually.
And yeah, they just have to run very well with Qs right now. They have to disengage. This is the kiting from Ezreal. He can turn again, Q again. That's what you should be doing where you're low on Ezreal and you don't have.
I knew he was safe.
Yeah.
I mean, he knows there's a lot of ultimates out. The only one really available should be the Orianna ult.
He can dodge that.
I like the adaptation from CLG, from Stixxay mainly, that he says, okay, it doesn't matter for me to lose the wave because they made a mistake. They weren't in time to push the mid wave, and then they were saying basically, okay, farm is not so important for me as to be with you guys, with my team.
Yeah, it was a really interesting Dragon situation where CLG was there first, and P1 used the Rengar ult to force CLG out of position because they don't have a tank to really sit there and say, walk into me. And then Darshan got a little chunked out and blows his TP to get back in, while CLG, like you said, intelligently doesn't bother going for that mid wave that P1 had pushed in, and then they actually contest the Dragon and grab it. So it was a really tricky Dragon situation. I think both teams played reasonably well.
Ezreal can get both kills here. He should
WE over there. Yep.
He should just give up, not try to kill the Rengar and just try to chase the other. It's important as an ADC if you are like Ezreal, for example, that can chase enemies, or Ashe, let's say, and you see someone that is already dead, you should be chasing the other guy. You should leave your teammate to kill the champion that's dead and just chase the other. Let's hope for some extra poke. Sometimes you can even kill him. If not, you just get an extra poke and you get extra objectives. You can start going more aggressive.
I think in this case, he actually needed to save Darshan because Adrian exhausted Darshan and Meteos was going to kill him 1v1, so I think he did have to save that guy. Yeah. But you're right, like in general, like Rebuff Ezreal gets to chase anything he wants.
Better be safe than sorry.
Yeah, so they get the 1 for 0. I guess it might have been a 2 for 0, you know, if Darshan does live. So, but it's you have to make that decision in a quarter of a second, and he went for the safer one. Okay, so this game is very close. 1300 down though is CLG, but looks like this is actually a game. I'm kind of glad we have one where it feels like Stixxay is going to be the one to carry. He's got the most kills in the team. If CLG wins, it's going to be him because his team is losing right now. And so again, like we've talked a fair bit about how you play the lane assignments, right? He's playing back, he's farming with Q. But at a certain point, CLG needs some lane pressure, right? And does he need Afroman to babysit him so he doesn't die to Rengar, right? There's no tier 1 turret to fall behind to. Like, that mid lane's very open. I feel like you can die to Rengar if you don't play it right.
They should always be around him, but Stixxay playing Ezreal is more safe than playing other ADCs. Yeah. When we look at Arrow, it's for Arrow, he can't never pressure because then he can just get engaged or poked by Ezreal or Huhi on our Linsor. So for Stixxay, he can be much more aggressive just knowing that he has Ezreal, and then they should always play around him, right? The Braum should always be around him, and the Elise should always be around him. So he potentially is always safe from Rengar.
And just talk a little bit about P1 and what they're doing. They've been throwing a lot of the wards over on the side, brushes, and over the walls that both teams have been doing a fair amount. P1 was just doing it there on your screen. And that's one of the things you need the most as an AD carry when you're farming mid, is to have these sides seen so that they can't get easy flanks on you. So like the entrances into your own jungle are very important to have those warded, or warding over the wall like CLG is doing right now to stop them from being able to get into the river at all. So depending on if you're the aggressor, the one trying to play safe, you want to put your wards over their walls or have them just over your own. And That's so important for an AD carry to be safe in the mid lane because, like you said, right now, not many champions have mobility in the mid lane, so you need to have like kind of pre-knowledge of where you should be positioning.
This is a slight mistake from CLG. They should just, again, wait for the Stixxay. Stixxay should make a call. I'm super strong, guys. Let me push mid lane. And then we go out together. There was this half a second difference between Elise and Stixxay where they weren't together and Elise just gets chunked for free. Basically, Stixxay, he's 3-0. He should be the leader of everything right now. The game should be spinning around him. He should be, when he pushes mid, people wait for him to push mid, and then he goes
with them to take a thing.
Most likely even first. He goes, Braum is next to him or slightly behind him, and then Ezreal just plays very aggressively with Qs and pokes everyone.
And he's, of course, building towards the Ruin King. Cooldown boot's done as well. I'm going to actually check through his stats, see if he ran like any cooldown or anything. No, he's just 30 CDR with the Trinity Force and the cooldown boots. That's what you get from the items. Of course, yeah, he's going towards Ruin King. Pink wards in the inventory, very important. Control wards, rather. And got those on 3 members of CLG. Plenty more on the map. There's, looks like 2 placed right now. So 3 need replacement.
Got to hear AD carry perspective on control wards. Freeze, when do you buy them?
I try to buy them all the time, but I just like, so my team doesn't blame me for not buying, but then I do the trick where I just hide them somewhere for myself,
right.
And they're like, hey, I have a pink word here, you should just buy them.
The one on your screen right then, that's the pink word you want. The one that's really far back, you buy it once, you put it there. Hey guys, I'm contributing to vision control.
Usually as an ADC, you should always buy a pink word, one.
Yeah.
And then if you place, you should have like 2 pink words. So like you place one,
in your jungle
for yourself, basically. Okay. If you're side lane, you push it, you pull it. You know, like they can destroy the pink ward. It doesn't really matter because if it saves you, it's very worth for you. If it lets you farm an extra wave, that's so good for you. And then you have another pink ward that if you change side lane, if you go from side lane to mid lane, then you just ward for yourself again. And there's a missed arrow from Arrow.
Uh-oh, missed it. Unlucky there. But yeah, the lesson I try to tell people in solo queue is like just ward one of your jungle entrances. Just like, if you get invaded, you'll know, and if you don't get invaded, well, your entire jungle's lit up. Like, it's win-win, right? Like,
and always
it won't die.
It's so helpful because it's 75 gold, and it makes you farm less afraid and gets you extra waves, lets you play more aggressively, basically.
Yeah.
And, yeah.
Like, you can control ward like your own tri-brush, like behind you in red or something. It's totally fine. So, we're into a fight. It's Stixxay trying to join the team as CLG's actually on the wrong side of the map. Darshan's splitting right now, so they're playing a 4v5 as they're trying to let Jace get pushing in.
Just poke. Just Ezreal should just play around me, poke. Don't go in. We have Jace pushing bot lane.
You can jump this wall
just
here.
Let me poke, yes. Don't get engaged, it's very important, and then Jace can just split push.
And flash the bubble, so they're okay.
That arrow missed around the mid lane is actually super bad because P1 basically has 2 engage tools, that and the Meteos ultimate, and they used both there, and both got nothing. And in the meantime, Darshan was just splitting down bot lane, so a really good job. Or it was actually just kind of misfired by Arrow because they forced Huhi to use his escape velocity.
And then
you just have to shoot along the path.
Didn't guess the right direction. Didn't shoot it the right way.
Yeah, so he needs to snipe Huhi out there and then let his team pick him. So a small mistake by Arrow that actually cost the team a lot because off the back of that, Darshan just pushes down bottom super aggressively.
But then let's look at the team comps, right? If I would be an Ashe or Ezreal, right now I know Ezreal is such a stronger champion than Ashe. He's double as strong as champ, and there is the fight.
Shocker only gets after me, but Huhi's pretty low. Stixxay jumps in, gets the heal, and now looks like it's just CLG having to kite away. They've already lost the support. It's a 4v5.
Yeah, this is really bad for CLG because even though they have 2 fight rakes, they will eventually get outscaled from P1, which is kind of scary, right? You have a Orianna, Rengar, Rumble, Ashe, and Ashe outscales Ezreal in late game. Ezreal is so strong in mid game, but then he falls off. So you should be trying to force your team to make plays around you right now and be together. I
want to ask about something, because Arrow's going for a more defensive build. He's getting a Hex Drinker right now. He's afraid of Aurelion Sol and Elise. And the reason Ashe outscales is because she buys Infinity Edge. And 70% crit Ashe with IE, like, that's all the damage in the world. But stopping for Hex Drinker, she's still 3,600 gold away. And actually, going for another dagger is not even... It's going like maybe Ruin King or like a rapid fire cannon now.
Yeah, looking at Arrow build, it's 29 minutes, right? It's gonna be 30 minutes now. It's very weak build to this point of the game. He should have more items, and that's just telling me how well they play around Arrow and how much they denied him. And that's saying that CLG has so much time to close out this game. They have 15 to 20 minutes to close out the game. If it hits 50-minute mark, then P1 will start winning. The team fights will start winning the game. But then 15-20 minutes. That's a lot of time for Ezreal to
you've got till 45. Like, it's easy to get those team fights. So once again, Stixxay is the one doing the poke, getting a lot of the farm. They know bot lane inhibitor's open. So we can go for a bit of a macro point. Like, is CLG just going to ward around Baron, basically? Or do they, like, play around top, bottom inhibitor more?
So Ezreal
should get one choice, right?
Ezreal, once again, he just has his power cycle. He should be very confident to push mid lane with his team and avoid getting engaged with his E and poke with Jace. And then Braum can spell shield everything, so they could be looking for team fights.
And Afro does die at the very start. He has to kite back away. It's still Stixxay who gets to get the Qs, but his team just drops too fast. They get blown up out of the P1 engage. Shockwave didn't see that one coming. And yeah, that's not good for Stixxay. That's a big mistake. Has to flash knock it volley.
Baron for P1.
Yeah, that's...
I was about to say that actually wasn't that bad for CLG. Ezreal alive with full health, full mana, while the enemy team just used all their engage tools, means that it's really hard for them to actually take Baron off of it.
And then the Shockwave
And then the Shockwave hit, and he had Flash available, and it would suck to lose your Flash just dodging a Shockwave in a non-important team fight, but he needed to Flash that to keep the pressure off P1 being able to do Baron right now. So that was a huge mistake by Stixxay.
As an ADC, if you play versus Orianna, you should always flash the Orianna ball. You should respect the Orianna that if she Orianna balls, she has a plan to kill you, and you should always flash, because if you don't flash it, you will eventually need to flash it anyway, and you will be low.
And I mean, this wasn't the cleanest turn off P1. It didn't turn out too bad for CLG. They could have lost Baron off CLG eating that Orianna Shockwave alone, so not the worst thing. But the arrow's back up.
Getting
another
scary.
one.
Jeez, and it looks like Arrow's actually creating all these openings now. He's landed 2 very important stuns in a row, and the
Stixxay can carry this team fight if he jumps on Arrow.
He's safe.
Oh, he missed the Q.
He's in. Rune King auto attack kills him. And now he's like, I can see Meteos. He knows the camouflage is up, and he can't find the range just yet.
He has to hit his Qs to get a reset.
There we go. Just has the chase down. They can't touch him. He's got a blue buff. He's got max CDR.
Yeah, they ignored Stixxay. Stixxay once again did the
he screwed it up.
job. Yep.
W too early. Wow.
Did the perfect job where he just stayed out. He legit let his teammates die. That's sometimes what you have to do as an AD carry, where you just play versus assassins or high damage dealers. You sort of let your team kind of die, you cut a bit, and then when they used everything on your teammates, you are able to jump in and kill.
That's basically a repeat fight of the one we saw in the mid lane just before that, where Arrow sniped out Aphromoo, and Stixxay didn't do like a ton to try and save him.
The problem there was that Stixxay got very chunked before he could do anything. Like the team fight for CLG, as you said, looked very good for them. In that part, if you blow everything on support and you kill him, that's perfect for you as a Ezreal support, because you can still kite, you can still poke, you still have a Hu-He on Ireland's sword, but people die too fast, and then Stixxay got Orianna ball, so he couldn't do anything.
Right, and then after that, P1 goes on to Baron, right call, they turn off, but their turn is not very clean. It takes forever for them to actually chase down targets, which gives Stixxay time to rejoin that fight. And then once again, you kind of see the same situation where he's starting to free hit. So here's the turn.
Here's the turn, Baron.
Stick this off the map right now.
Yep,
this is the first half of it.
Yeah, so the fact that he was forced out by that Ori ult meant that P1 should have got a clean turn here, probably killed Darshan, but Meteos missed a couple bolas over the course of this, which gives Stixxay time to kind of rejoin this fight. And then once again, we see what happens when P1 does not actually get onto Stixxay, the real huge threat in this fight.
Everyone is poked here. This is a perfect position for Stixxay. Just look what he does. He hides behind Braum here.
Let him die.
Yeah, let him die. Just use his Qs. That's all he does. He just uses Qs until Arrow is in position of dying. Arrow flashes now, so he knows he can go in, because they're all focusing Hu-He and they can't focus him. And at this position, he just has to connect his Qs and kill everyone. So he was just patiently waiting till they start focusing on someone else than him, which was Hu-He and Aphromoo before, and then he just joins the fight and jumps in.
We come back to an arrow onto Xmithy, who's able to repel to stay alive, but Stixxay's here. Ulti's going to come across, not find anything yet. But they know he can carry. He's got to be smart. Ooh, what a great kill. And a bubble on a Stixxay's huge. Shockwave as well.
Yeah, Meteos can go in here and try and blow him. Stixxay, unfortunately.
He's kite with Stixxay, yeah.
He has Locket. He's like almost invincible.
Nice.
Another kill. He's just killing everyone.
Yeah, he's very strong now. His Q will just kill everyone right now. He can jump in soon after they start focusing someone else.
Arrow.
Yeah, Stixxay went around the back side,
nice.
but Arcane shifts the wall and jukes to the other side to land the Q.
He can just use Qs and he can kill him.
1v1 Ryu.
Blasting flank too.
He's going to go for the hopeful recall. Yeah, I think it's not enough time.
Oh, he's going for the inhibitor maybe, actually.
No, oh, yeah, there is a bottom hit open. He can probably 1v1. He's got the he can lifesteal off minions and he can regen with red buff.
Yeah, he can zone Ryu with his Qs and basically get it.
He's got to be smart about that. Yeah, that's huge because Merlin-Amacon's on, so he can't heal anymore.
Ryu has speed up again. This might be Stixxay.
He's queuing for cooldown on the T.
Yeah. Nice. He has red buff too. So
okay, now, as soon as he lands the Q, Ryu can't chase.
So that was actually a really interesting team fight overall, and I think both AD carries played it pretty well. Arrow is struggling to like hit out more priority targets. Either the Jace, Ezreal, or Aurelion Sol would be nicer to hit than the Elise or Braum, which is who he's been hitting recently. But that's also a good job of CLG by frontlining, which forced them to kind of go on those targets. And then Arrow does a good job continuing to get his DPS out despite getting relatively low
Arrow
health.
can go in. He's doing the same thing that Stixxay is doing. Stixxay is a bit behind. He tries to ult there, but then here Meteos comes jump and look at Stixxay what he does. He gets caught initially by the bubble, which is a bad E from him, but then he tries to disengage as much as he can and then waits again. He just goes away and then see there he can just jump again because he looks for these targets that are split and alone, and then he knows that he can jump into them. But you should always keep your jump to be defensive. If you can use your Qs and auto attacks, you shouldn't use your E as well for it. But yeah, here he just picks up the targets that were very low from the team fight before.
Yeah, the only mistake by Stixxay really there was getting hit by that bubble. He was very lucky.
The bubble,
yeah, Rumble actually missed his ultimate. Yeah. He layered that on top of the bubbled ultimate, the bubbled Stixxay. That would have been a
you should always keep your E to defensive, because you should, as a good Ezreal player, you should always be in position to Q and then E away from anything that's coming onto you. And then there he uses the Qs as Freak set to get E again, because if you use Q, it gives you a cooldown reduction.
1.5 seconds,
yeah, and then if he hits Q as well, he gets the movement speed from his Trinity Force, so he can kite very well.
Yeah, you lose a quarter second of movement by having to cast the thing. So like, if it weren't for the E reset, it wouldn't be worth it. But yeah, getting your E up 1.5 seconds sooner, really big deal. That'll cover the distance. CLG got a Mountain Drake on the comeback here, and 2,000 gold lead. It's still all about Stixxay. He's added Edge of Night to his build, by the way. I mean, he's killing squishies, right? There are no tanks.
Yeah, there's no tanks, so it's a very good item for him. Plus, the Edge of Night on Ezreal is just annoying, straight up. Because you can catch him already with his E, and then you have Edge of Night as well, so he can play very aggressively.
He just caught out Meteos. And now he puts the shield on. Stixxay actually ulting the wave to keep his team pushing. That was
Ryu and Arrow were coming around from the flank to try to get over because CLG was rotating faster, and he hops onto Ryu to stop him from getting involved in the fight. Basically,
we could look at it again. Ryu. That was basically a Ezreal assassin. I would like to see that.
It's over though. It's over. CLG win off this.
This is one, and this is just perfect play from Ezreal. You know, like at this point he's so fat. He has Edge of Night, so that once again he just pops Edge of Night, has the whale on his E, and he can avoid getting hit by any ability, and then he 1v2s Arrow and Orianna. That's something, you know. If your one carry can 1v2 the both carries, that tells you the story of the game, right? That's just Stixxay rolling over the entire team.
And I think this is why you see a lot of teams starting to prioritize Ezreal a little bit higher, because he does have this individual playmaking carry potential that almost everything else in the meta lacks. We saw Arrow, you know, hit some good ultimates, but they were always seemingly hitting frontline targets, which is totally fine for CLG's comp when they have so much damage in the top and AD carry position. So Stixxay, a couple small mistakes in team fights, getting hit by some abilities he probably shouldn't have, but it was never punishing enough where he actually died. So he ends the game 9-0-5, great game overall.
Yeah, and then that Edge of Night was really good pickup for him. Playing versus squishies as Ezreal, getting that extra Lily plus the Banshee, that's just straight up very good buy. And then in the end, he 1v2s. His damage is going to be insane. Yeah,
25,000, highest in the game.
Highest in the game.
Yeah, certainly not 1,000 per minute, which sometimes we see, but still very, very good play by him. And yeah, I mean, a deserved game. I mean, in my opinion, he's player of the game. I think he super hard carried that one.
For sure.
And it was, I'm glad we got a game where the bot lane actually had an impact.
Yeah.
Because game one is like, well, Meteos is ahead, so Arrow wins for free. Game two, Stixxay, well, Smithy, so he wins for free. And then it was actually the plays made by Stixxay are the reason CLG even won at all. And it was so cool because it was when he chose to actually dive the backliners. Jumping over the wall saying, I'm going to go for Arrow here because I can.
Yeah, and I think you get to see, too, that even if you fall behind a little bit early, there's still things you can do. The fact that Stixxay swapped to the top side to get out of
that was very
lane.
good by him. That was perfect rotation by CLG because they were losing. They were about to get a Dovin again by the enemy. They were set. P1 was setting for it. They wanted to plan it, and they avoided by swapping. They got a kill. They got a tower. That was just brilliant play, and then they swapped again. After we got caught there again, but then Stixxay never died, so he was always farming. And in irony, if your support dies, you get more experience, more farm, and if you're Ezreal, you can just deal with 1v2, you can farm up, and then eventually just carry the game.
You heard it from Freeze. Let your supports die, get extra XP, carry the game on Ezreal. That's what he wants you to do.
Absolutely agree. So, hey, yeah, beautiful game from him. So let's talk about the players overall. I think we came in, you guys were saying Arrow's the better player. okay, Stixxay won the series. Does it change your opinion in any way?
Well, I don't know what you think. I think on Ezreal, you have a little bit more of an opportunity to make individual plays, and in that regard, Stixxay did outperform him. Both of them had a time where they kind of got smashed in laning phase. Game 3, he's losing laning phase, but he's able to turn it around and take over the game on the Ezreal pick. So for that, I give it to him a little bit.
Yeah, I would like before the match, I would say Arrow had the slightest edge. You know, like if you would be percentage like 10%, 5% better than Stixxay after this match, it looked like it wasn't Arrow's day, it was his off day. He didn't he played well around the pressure. He played well around being safe. But then the last games, there were a couple misplays where he just straight up died, gave advantage to the enemy, and it didn't fall like Arrow, right?
Yeah, I agree. And like we were all kind of shocked, like, wow, this is something that he doesn't do normally. Like he has the vision. So let's talk about a little bit of the future. CLG is going to play against TSM. So you got Stixxay against Wild Turtle. I feel like we'd all say Stixxay is a generally better player than Wild Turtle is, but tell me what you think about that matchup.
I think the big thing is while Arrow is not super lane dominant, he also usually doesn't lose lane too hard. Whereas we've seen a little bit of a propensity out of TSM's bot lane to lose lane harder than they should. So I think you have to be a little bit worried if you're TSM about CLG picking some of these Bard picks and these more not cheesy, but aggressive playmaking champions. And if they get those, you know, Stixxay can have a field day.
Yeah, as was said, like. P1 is really good at losing bot lane or like not losing,
going equal without getting
screwed. Yeah, and then you look at TSM, and then you look how much P1 had to do to deny Aphromoo these picks. You know, Malzahar, Thresh, they had to ban those. They couldn't let him roam around the map because that's what happened the second game. He just rolled over the impact that he had. So if you don't do that as TSM, you will get rolled over, sort of, I feel, because then they will be able to just do that again and win the lane and then put Aphromoo onto his roaming supports where he just can roam and afford to leave Stixxay alone, because Stixxay plays very well in 1v2. He just knows how to play passively, farm up, and then pressure the lane.
Yep, did it pretty well. So any final thoughts about this matchup overall with these players?
I think you said it best when you said Arrow seemed to have a little bit of an off day. He missed a couple ultimates that could have been game-changing if he hit Huhi on that one where Aurelion Sol was leaving, or if he didn't walk up during that tragic two deaths that they gave away and lost mid-turret off of
the mid-turret, yeah.
All right, so Freeze, this is going to pretty much be it for us. I want to give you a chance to sort of thank the watchers, and also, of course, you're on a new NACS team, Tempo Storm, who've made their entrance into League of Legends. You're in playoffs. You're up against Gold Coin United, I believe.
Yeah, I believe 4 days or 5 days from now, we will play just basically death or qualify, right?
Yeah.
But versus Golcon United, which I think is the best team in Challengers right now. So if we defeat them, we have very high chance of just playing the promotion tournament and qualifying. If we lose, we're going home because we don't get any chance to qualify for the LCS. So that's all or nothing right now.
All right, I want to think BO5, right? Against BCU.
BO5.
Looking
Mad
forward
Life
to
in
it.
Phoenix.
Yeah, Mad Life.
Mad Life in Phoenix is going to be fun. So Freeze vs. Mad Life and NACS on, I guess it would be Wednesday then, if that was the case. Same normal Challenger day.
Yeah,
I think.
Yeah, one's on Wednesday, one's on Thursday. I think
we're the first.
One.
We're the first, I think. Yeah.
Okay, so you're on Wednesday. Yeah, so Wednesday, this guy's going to be competing. See, you know, he's already smart. Let's see how well he can put up as well in the game as well. BO5 against Gold Coin United. Gentlemen, thank you very much. Let's toss it back down to the analyst desk as they break down the final series of the day.
We have seen him at MSI famously. We have seen him in the NALCS dominating. And, you know, this was a bot lane matchup, the bot lane stream. Stixxay came out on top today.
Yeah,
I think
there was the question there.
Exceptionally good. You know, it's funny, we've mentioned it a number of times already, but the Piglet video talking about how AD carries cannot carry the game. You can't actually do it. Well, there are a lot of arguments to be made against that, and here is one, right? Stixxay taking over a game on Ezreal, and guess what? He's not playing a CC champion. He's not playing a lethality champion. He's playing Fervor Ezreal, and he is crushing the game on it.
And they're injecting that comfort back into a few other lanes, like you said. Chase back in the top lane, a carry for Darshan, and the tanks across the map otherwise. Counterlogic Gaming looking good coming out in this win, although it was still a little back and forth towards the end of the game where you would expect them to kind of close it up.
It was a very close one, and Rengar 0-3 in this series, right? And not paying off. And I think that priorities do need to shift somewhat with this champion. It's not that it's not good. You get it and you will lose, right? Like Smithy did fine on Elise. You know, he didn't have an outstanding game, but he had pressure. Even when he got behind, he was still able to come back through some smart pathing and stuff. And I think we're seeing the trend as some of these super OP champions have been nerfed and toned down. I think the gap between, you know, the best champion and the like pretty good champions is not as big now. And that's why it's more important to play to your own strengths. Pick what works for you and don't just crumble and conform to the meta.
Well, how much can, that's kind of a question, this is also a little ambiguous. How much can you go outside the meta? We've seen the Shaco come in, but teams also kind of go against that. How much can you kind of broaden that outside the meta? Can you just do anything towards the top lane? We see AD Cannons again come down to the back of the bot lane.
I think you can do a lot, but it's dependent upon a lot of what your opponents do, right? So there's things that are situationally very good. If you want to talk about AD Cannon in the top lane, it was situationally good into these low damage tanks because you could build things like Wit's End, you could even get away with greedy Cull Starts and things like that. So it's situational, right? If you're gonna play Braum, is Braum meta right now? No, he's not, but guess what? He blocks Nami's tidal wave extremely well. That is something that matches up well with that. He can absorb the Ashe arrows, he can tank up the damage for his team. So it's contextual, right? If you have picks that you can do, it doesn't have to be meta for it to be very successful. Jace Top has not been successful in NA. This was very smart, alongside with Aurelion Sol, not really meta. Alongside with Braum, not really meta. You know, Elise, I think, is very strong, but still not maybe considered the S tier for a lot of people, lower tier than Rengar on a lot of people's lists. So I think it just shows that it's dependent on what your opponents do.
All right, and as we do close out our chat for Counterlogic Gaming versus P1, honors of player of the game is going to go to Stixxay. Cannot forget the awesome play he just put up on Ezreal as we spoke. Really getting in some clean plays towards the end of the game that we saw. Still out mechanically playing, but really making the other team want to just engage. Stixxay pulls back, and they find themselves in a bad spot.
Yeah, I mean, he was able to stay alive till all the Akil abilities are down, the shockwave's down, the Ashe arrow's down, and then he's able to go so aggressive and really have his mechanics shining through. He looked great. He's highest damage in the game. Even in a game with a Rumble, who traditionally smashes in those kind of numbers, I think he has a lot to be proud of from this game.
All right, well, with day 1 here of week 6 in the books, let's take a look at the standings. Despite the loss, Phoenix One remain in 4th place. CLG and Immortals stay in 5th and 6th, respectively, while Team Liquid are looking to start a climb now, ending the day in 9th. We'll be back again tomorrow with more league action. Coverage kicks off with Echo Fox taking on Cloud9 on NALCS 1. And then we have a rematch between storied rivals TSM and Counter Logic Gaming. So it is tomorrow on NALCS 2. We have Moon and FlyQuest taking on Lyra and Team Envy, with Phoenix One versus Team Dignitas later in the day. I know it's a lot of info, but you're going to be here anyway, so you're going to take it in.
Yeah, there's so many big matches there. Even FlyQuest going against Envy, they need to stop their losing streak. CLG looking to continue their success, and Echo Fox coming off a bad week, want to bounce back. So a lot of big storylines.
Talk about FlyQuest. They can't get in a trap game. Fly C9 coming up once again.
You never know.
Be a good game. So now for myself, the casters, and the entire live broadcast crew, thank you for watching, and we'll see you tomorrow for more North America LCS. Good night.
Well, onto the riff for Immortals versus Team Liquid.
The debut of Piglet mid.
Damages through, Exhaust is great, but that's a good stun. First one though over, as that's a trade killing for Dardoch. Rainover goes down, and Dardoch chasing Youngbin.
Look for Kyle, Connor flash, no jump. Okay, we can end. Push up it.
And now Cody-san onto Youngbin here. 2v2 all in, could be a kill. Boomerang Blade, not quite enough, but Cody-san wants it. Flash auto. Looking for Matt, Dardoch flashes straight in and blows Matt apart. There's number 2. Ryu's gonna be grabbing that one. Darshan exhausted, and Phoenix One is gonna be going 3 for 0. Zig gets to the party a little bit late, but he's still mopping these guys up. Oh, bucket at the ready. A little bit more damage will do it onto Xfinity as well. A triple kill for the big man.
Center. Back up. Nice.
What are you doing, P? Why didn't they go through the batting order? That delivery! Shut down! Stixxay! The damage comes through, but he's not going to be going down. Who he commits suicide. Darshan's looking for more. Arrow's going to be killed. One left on both sides. And ladies and gentlemen, in game number 3, 38 minutes in, CLG has earned their win over Phoenix One. The final question here for you, Piglet. Who's the better mid laner? Faker or you?
I'm gonna go on Rise. Nice ult, going over.
I got Rengar peeled. Rengar.
Nice.
We got this! 12, 1, and 8 on the Casio for Piglet.